At this point, 3 employees of this restaurant stood in front of Billis, threatening her, looking at the way the customer was dressed. It's not that they don't have money. Of course, paying for a meal is a given. Hurry up and pay. Billis angrily yelled at these 3 men, in broad daylight. Are you guys robbing money? Aren't you afraid of the security guards? The sinister ringleader told Billis that the bill was written in black and white. You want to cheat? If you don't pay, don't even think about leaving. Billis was a little scared at this moment, trying to helplessly think. If he kept going, she wasn't sure if she could leave. But would she have to submit? Billis still sat calmly thinking of a way. It was impossible. At most, they would make a ruckus. This was a crowded area. Even if the security department had no one nearby, the residents of Chang'an City could not just stand by and not help. After thinking for a while, Billis replied firmly. Money, I will only pay you the original price. Don't even dream about $1,000. I advise you to turn back. Chang'an City's management is strict. If His Majesty finds out about this, he will definitely not let you off lightly. The waiter aggressively walked over and lifted Billis's arm, threatening her. You don't drink when offered, but you want to drink when punished, Billis angrily yelled and shouted. It's a crowded area outside. You dare to attack, do you not have the rule of law in your eyes? The shopkeeper sneered and said, these glasses of mine are specially made. No matter how loud you shout, no one outside will hear you. No one will help you either. Here, I am the law. While the water was boiling, a slash passed by. The top of the waiter's head was cut off and flew out. Billis also realized something was up. It was Luong who came over. He questioned the owner in a harsh voice. Oh, you are the king of law? Billis was overjoyed when she saw Luong. The other 3 were scared and trembling. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Luong decisively ordered, where is the man? Capture the king's law for me, I want to see how powerful he is. The guard received the order and all obeyed. Understood. Seeing that majestic appearance, Billis's heart was filled with love. The young master is so handsome. But then she suddenly wondered. But why did the young master appear here? Scene changes to office in Chang'an City. Ellie was seriously presenting the matter to Luong. She told him that after the city was developed, the existing plant nursery area would also be annexed. There were quite a few complaints from residents about noise and pollution. The Ministry of Agriculture also wanted to relocate to the agricultural land outside the city. Luong immediately agreed. Fine, let's do as they say. The report gradually came, and finally the last document arrived. Ellie excitedly said, young master, only the last document remains. Once we're done, can we go find Billis for lunch? Luong sighed and replied, I don't even know where she went for a walk. How can we eat together? Ellie was stunned, that's right. Ellie frowned and picked up the document, then continued. Then let's look at the document. It was sent by the security department, the security department said. The management of the commercial district has been a bit chaotic recently. Some merchants have taken advantage of the situation to raise prices, exceeding our price regulations. Ellie was extremely angry. She scolded these merchants. They were trying to make money in shady ways. Wasn't this trying to ruin the reputation of the Han Dynasty? Luong asked Ellie calmly. Have the stalls that arbitrarily raised prices been investigated? Ellie handed the documents to Luong and replied. It has been investigated. There are a total of 6 illegal stalls. They are mainly concentrated in the old city area. Looking at the information on the document, Luong replied solemnly. If he remembered correctly, these stalls were all from when he first became the lord of Xi'an City. When he first started developing commerce. They were the first stalls that followed me to open. Ellie was sad. That's right. At first I thought the new owners didn't understand. I didn't expect them to be all veterans. And young master. The worst thing was this stall. They hired a bunch of muscular guys. They used the appearance of the workers to intimidate the customers. They forced them to pay. While saying that, Ellie pointed to the store information for Luong to know. Without further ado, Luong immediately left to deal with these dishonest merchants. He was in a hurry. This was no different from robbery. Go. Call the guards. Let's go see how far they can go. Then came the scene that Billis encountered while eating at the barbecue restaurant. While Billis was screaming and cursing at the 3 thugs, Ellie discovered her. Ellie spoke worriedly. Young master. It's Billis. They are really beasts. How dare they attack a girl? Luong gave the order. Several people went to block the back door to prevent them from escaping. Inside. The scene was the same as before. When the innkeeper was laughing happily, no matter how loud Billis screamed, no one noticed. Just then, Luong pulled out his sword to save Billis. The waiter lost half of his hair. When Luong entered and asked the leader if he was the king of the law, all three were shocked and scared. The leader changed his mind faster than a pancake. Just now, how did he threaten Billis? Now he greeted Luong with a smile. Your Majesty, why are you here? We are dealing with a customer who refused to pay. You know that. Our small shop is not doing well. If we can't get the money back, we will lose money. Luong said sternly. Really? The other guy still fought. Of course. How could I dare lie to your Majesty? Dees couldn't take it anymore. She threw the indictment papers straight at his face. She yelled at him. How dare you make excuses? We have investigated clearly. Dees pressed him. Do you have anything else to say? The restaurant owner held his stack of fraudulent business information. His face twisted in displeasure as he thought to himself. This is over. The security department has already investigated our case thoroughly. Now we can only admit our mistakes. I don't believe it. It's up to us to support His Majesty. We have no merit but we have hardship. He will definitely go easy on us. I thought about it. The three men kowtowed and admitted their mistakes. Your Majesty. I know I was wrong. I was blinded by profit. I went astray. I am willing to return the money I stole from the customers. Please forgive us this time. The two waiters behind also kowtowed and begged for forgiveness. I was wrong. We were just hired workers. We were forced. Your Majesty. On Billis's side, Ellie and Dees also asked with great concern. Billis, are you okay? Are you okay? Billis smiled lightly in response. I'm fine. Don't worry too much. Dees is stronger. She wanted Luong to not spare these three. Your Majesty. These people cannot be spared. Master Dees was adamant. The innkeeper begged. Your Majesty. We have been with you since you were the city lord. We have always worked hard to run the business. This time, we made a mistake. But it is not something that can be forgiven like murder or arson. I beg your Majesty to have mercy. Please forgive me this time. Luong just smiled faintly in response to his plea. That's right. Your stall was the first stall I opened when I first started my business. The innkeeper was overjoyed when he heard this. Your Majesty, you still remember. Please forgive us. Don't worry. We will return the money to the customer. The surrounding people began to whisper. His Majesty truly values loyalty and righteousness. But to disregard it like this is truly a violation of the law. This innkeeper has been dishonest in his business dealings for a long time. He also cheated me out of my money. Even if His Majesty has loyalty, he cannot let him off. Don't make any noise. His Majesty has his own decisions. The innkeeper saw that Luong did not punish him. He smugly responded to the gossips about him. His Majesty has decided. What are you guys discussing? Do you want to go against His Majesty's will? The people were very upset with this innkeeper. They openly despised him. What a smug little man. Will your Majesty not take care of him? If your Majesty does not take care of him, I will. Just wait. When the time comes, I will beat him up. Billis was also feeling a little disappointed in Luong. She felt sad inside. Just now, the young master appeared like a god. I kept thinking. Now, will he be gentle and let it go? Ellie comforted Billis. The young master must have other intentions. Because this stall wasn't the only one with problems. Only then did Billis understand Luong. Was that so? As for Dees. She's very enthusiastic. If we attack, count my share too. The shopkeeper was overjoyed. He smiled and thanked Luong. Your Majesty, look. If the matter has been resolved. It is also lunchtime. You haven't eaten yet, right? Would you like to eat at our shop? Luong replied with a serious face. When did I say that the matter has been resolved? Luong then gave a fierce order. Arrest all these people for me. Lock them up in a dark room for a month and then we'll see what happens next. This decision made the innkeeper freeze on the spot. Dees was quick. Your Majesty, leave it to me. The innkeeper didn't understand. He asked loudly. Your Majesty, you didn't say it like this just now. Luong once again loudly affirmed. I said that you guys were one of the first stalls when I first started developing. But do you think that the hard work of the beetle nut man can do whatever you want? Then I will tell you now. Merit is merit, crime is crime. Merit cannot compensate for crime. Before the law, everyone is equal. The innkeeper still insisted. Your Majesty, I know I was wrong. Luong gave another order to the security department. Security department, arrest all the dishonest merchants. Regardless of whether they are shop owners or employees. Punish them according to their positions. They must be severely punished. All shop owners will be detained for a month. Employees will be sent to a labor camp to re-educate themselves. Luong then spoke to the people gently. As for those who had been cheated and had not yet recovered their money, the security department would compensate them according to the situation. The people happily praised him. His Majesty is truly formidable. I knew His Majesty was not a tyrant. His Majesty is truly just. Then, Di said loudly to Luong. Your Majesty, I will lead the people ahead. I will immediately arrange for people to handle the other stalls. Luong also replied gently. Go, remember not to let anyone escape. Dis replied excitedly. Don't worry. The innkeeper who was dragged away by Dis kept begging for mercy. Lord Dis, please forgive me. I beg you. But Dis just coldly shouted at him. Shut up. Dis took the shopkeeper and left. Ellie looked at Lu Feng's back thoughtfully and confided in Billis. These stalls had all followed the young master from the beginning. Now they were acting rashly. The young master was definitely not in a good mood. He was afraid he wouldn't be in the mood to eat later. Billis also replied to Ellie. I can understand the young master's feelings. Why don't we eat with the young master? That way, there's a chance he can eat a little. Having said that, Ellie approached Luong. She happily said to him. Young master, it's already this time, I'm so hungry. Shall we go eat together? Billis also added. That's right, Your Majesty. I'm not full yet either. Consider it eating with us. But Luong refused. You guys go. I need to go to the editorial office for a bit. I'll take care of lunch myself. Luong said in a low voice. He spoke very seriously. This incident is very typical. There are some old people who followed me from the beginning, thinking that they have great merit, gradually loosened their demands, and went astray. Standing on the opposite side of the people. This time, I must make a public announcement. From then on, I will severely punish this phenomenon. Let's see who dares to act rashly in the future. Hearing Luong say that, Ellie turned to Billis and said. I thought that the young master would at least be bored and unable to get up for a while. Billis also replied. The young master's virtue is truly profound. Chang'an City now. The special issue of the newspaper has just been released. A report on a corrupt merchant being caught. Is it a distortion of personality or a loss of morality? Welcome everyone to join us as reporters in exploring the psychological process and uncovering the secrets of corrupt merchants falling from the light into the dark. After that, His Majesty will issue a completely new management order. Mom, I've been to this store before. I've been scammed before. Ha! The scammed person can get appropriate compensation. Go to the police station to get the money. The boss is urging some workers. The opening is coming soon. The glass door above needs to be cleaned too. Can you hurry up? The workers were a little confused. Boss, it's too high up there. It's dangerous. Yes. It's a terrible fall, isn't it? The boss frowned upon hearing that. Explain. As long as you achieve civilized commerce, I will increase your salary. Seeing that, the workers straightened their backs and replied. Okay. I'll go get the ladder. Hurry up and come back. The boss grumbled again. If you don't see the rabbit, don't stick out your eagle's feet. Why am I so unlucky? Could I have met two types of people like you? Now the two people walking past the shop curiously asked. Boss, it's so early today. The friend who was walking with them gently reminded. Are you crazy? The boss here has a reputation for being very bad. Just look at his frown. Still greeting him to get scolded. The boss was the opposite. Neem happily replied to them. Oh. You're here. Good afternoon. The shop is about to open. You can come in and have a look. Then he gave an order. You entertain the guests. I'll go check on that little boy Johnny. It's taking so long to get just a ladder. I wonder if he's hiding somewhere and sleeping. The carpenter nodded in agreement. The two objective people were extremely surprised to see the boss's attitude turn 360 degrees. Did your boss take the wrong medicine? Or did he hit his head? Where's White? He's usually very fierce when we go to his shop. Why is his face so swollen today? Has he turned into a cat? The craftsman immediately explained. Recently His Majesty has established a civilized merchant competition. Not only is the price generous, but there is also free advertising. It increases the publicity. Now all the merchants in Chang'an City are competing for this competition. The boss is naturally no exception. So his attitude is super good. Ha ha. The two guests understood. Oh, so that's how it is. No wonder the other shop's service is much better. His Majesty Luong is really good. Just a small prize can mobilize the entire city's merchant guild to be more active. Ellie reported to Luong. Young master. Good news. Since the series of measures to regulate the stalls were put forward, the overall order of the market has improved a lot. Luong was satisfied. That's great. Meanwhile, Billis greeted from the door. Young master. Ellie. Good afternoon. I brought you some food. Take a break. Ellie was surprised. Billis. Why is it you? Is there any delicious food? Billis smiled and replied. Nicole had just come up with a new type of snack. She had to see Yuffie and the others off. So she asked me to bring it. Ellie replied enthusiastically. Oh, I understand. No need to explain. Billis seemed to have guessed Ellie's secret intention. Her face turned red. Ellie saw that and winked at Billis to signal her to calm down. I understand you. Ha ha. I'll try some new kind of breakfast later. I'm tired and want to go out and do some activities. Luong saw Ellie's strange appearance. He thought to himself. What's wrong with Ellie? She's been tired all day. Is her eye twitching? Ellie suddenly became silent for a while. She seemed to want to say something to Billis. She immediately signaled to her. Ellie gently reminded. Do your best. You two can do whatever you want. It will take a long time for me to move. Billis looked confused. Don't talk nonsense. Here, what can I do? Billis walked over and said to Luong. Young master, this is a new type of snack. Try it. Nicole said that she must ask the young master's opinion. Luong nodded. Let me see. Luong picked up a piece and smelled it. He said, it smelled a bit familiar. Looking at Luong eagerly chewing the first bite, Billis was filled with anticipation. She eagerly asked, Young master, how is it? Luong replied. This is hazelnut. Billis was surprised. Wow, Nicole said you would definitely be able to guess. It was indeed so. She explained further. Previously, Nicole had many hunters and farmers around to help find plants among the plants. It was all thanks to you. Like that, they can all be brought here to find me. I will pay. The farmers replied. There is no need for any kind of reward. Maybe it is because your service is our honor. Someone brought it and said, Sir Nicole, look at this. And this too. It looks very similar to the image of Shan Yao. Nicole smiled back brightly. After looking at it, Nicole was very satisfied. It really is very similar. Let me try it. The other person replied. This is what our kid picked up. It's already roasted. It's very fragrant. It's like the hazelnuts in the book. After that, they really did find a nut like the hazelnut. The food was delicious. Wow, the taste was much better than before. Especially the smell. The cousins sat down together to try it and discuss it with each other. Nicole used it for breakfast. We all found it delicious. But Nicole still couldn't confirm. So she asked me to bring it to the young master to try. Convenient. Look at this. It looks very similar to hazelnuts. Nicole felt it could be cultivated. Luong took it. He observed and recognized it. It looked very similar, but the fruit flesh was relatively little. With that, Luong put it in his mouth to taste its flavor. He was quite surprised. Well, the taste and aroma are very similar. Maybe it's a variant of hazelnut. Speaking of which, it's almost autumn. In my hometown, hazelnuts are ripe in autumn. Last time, the typhoon hastily planted some varieties and they're ready to harvest. Billis replied, I heard that this hazelnut-like fruit is near the farm. Let's go to the farm to see how the harvest is going. We can also look at this fruit tree on the way. On the outskirts of Chang'an City right now, farmers are talking. Digging trenches, draining water, and in a few days, they can start harvesting. Yes, this year's harvest seems to be quite good. Billis exclaimed, so beautiful, this is the first time I've seen such a scene. Lu Feng nodded, very beautiful. The farmer's hard work was finally rewarded. Pick a farmer. Lu Feng asked, how is the rice harvest this year compared to previous years? Is it better? The farmer was surprised. Ah, Your Majesty. Why are you here? This year's barley yield is very good. The yield is definitely very high. It's a bumper crop. Lu Feng chuckled. Don't be nervous, don't be nervous. I just want to find out the situation. What about the other types? The farmer pulled out a corn cob. He said, the corn is not bad. There is already a large amount of young corn for the market. The rest is intended to be dried and used as seeds. And to provide food for the winter. Lu Feng nodded. This place is indeed a bit old. The farmer explained further. The vacant lot over there was originally used for growing vegetables. Has it been harvested yet? Sir Shirley is planning to build a thermal house over there. Are those wooden pillars for the thermal house? Lu Feng replied with satisfaction. Old man, thank you. Next, we'll go and see for ourselves. You just go ahead and do your work. The old farmer bowed. No need to thank me. I can introduce you to His Majesty. It's my good fortune from my 3 lifetimes of cultivation. Lu Feng signaled to Billis. Billis, let's go this way. As soon as the two turned around, the old farmer called out. Your Majesty, please wait a moment. He said. I recently heard some farmers say that the foot of that mountain is not very safe. I don't know what it is. Your Majesty, it's better not to go there. Lu Feng smiled back. Not safe. It's okay. How many people do you have working here? What could it be? Lu Feng thought to himself. If it's not safe, then he has to go over there and see. There are so many farmers here every day. One mistake and a big problem will happen. Lu Feng and Billis passed by the foot of the mountain. He kept looking around. He didn't understand what made it unsafe. Billis picked up something and called out. Young master. It seemed to be this type of seed. Billis wondered. Young master. Are you worried about what the old farmer said earlier? Lu Feng nodded. Next is the autumn harvest and the winter harvest. We need to ensure the safety of the farmer's production. It is our responsibility. Billis spoke up. That's right. My people also said that when the fields are ready for harvest, there will often be groups of big, sharp-toothed black monsters coming down the mountain, attacking the fields and the people of my tribe. Is that what the old man was talking about? Lu Feng was surprised. Ha! Black skin, big sharp teeth. Sounds like a wild boar. An adult wild boar. Amazing fighting power. And a pack animal. Something appeared ahead. Lu Feng found it moving. He was extremely cautious. Looking at its shape. It was a wild boar, weighing at least 100 kilograms. Pull out the wooden stick. Lu Feng signaled. Billis. Step back. I'll go see how it is. Billis was worried. Young master. Is there any problem with you going alone? Let me go call someone. Lu Feng eagerly calmed Billis down. Don't worry. I'm not some weak emperor who only knows how to have fun. At the farm outside Chang'an City at this time, Lu Feng walked forward alone. He pondered in his heart. His physical constitution had improved a lot. But dealing with a herd of wild boars, it seemed like he was in trouble. So he must strike a weak spot with one move. After looking at the meaning carefully, Lu Feng gathered all his strength and smashed down. Suddenly, a girl popped out and asked, Uncle Lin, are you here? It was Shirley. She was so terrified that she stood still and screamed. Luckily, Lu Feng stopped in time. Billis heard the scream and was startled and ran over to see. She couldn't help but be surprised. It was Shirley who was here. It would have been better to have known sooner. The young master didn't hurt Shirley, right? Lu Feng was flustered and helped Shirley up. Sorry. I didn't expect it to be you. Are you okay? Shirley replied in a panic. It's okay, it's okay. Luckily, the young master withdrew his hand in time. Let me calm down a bit. Billis said worriedly. Or should we go to the hospital to get checked out? I think it would be better to let the doctor take a look. Shirley said. Don't worry too much. I'm really fine. That's right. Why are you two here? Why is the young master here? Luong was frustrated. This was a long story. The three of them sat down to talk. Luong recounted. Billis and I went to patrol the farm. Just in time, we heard farmers say that there might be wild monsters appearing nearby. After arriving, I saw something moving under the thin membrane. It looked like a wild boar. I immediately wanted to get rid of the pest for the people. Billis laughed and said. It was the young master and I who were careless. We almost injured you. I'm sorry. Shirley replied eagerly. So that's how it is. Don't blame yourself. The two of you were really not bad at all. She added. Before I came here to set up the pole, the farmers in charge of night patrol also told me. They also discovered the shadow of forest monsters during night patrol. And I also heard that the closer to harvest time, the more forest monsters appear. Furthermore, did you two see these many footprints? There's a possibility that there are a lot of seeds here. If you two come at night, you might even encounter them. Billis was shocked. Such a big footprint. How big is this monster? Luong said. I will call the security department to handle it quickly. While the matter is not resolved. She reminded the people from the night peasant department to stay near this area. Shirley replied. Young master. You two go back first. These shelves are still a little bit away from being set up. I'll be busy a little longer. Luong shook his head. No, it's too dangerous for you to be here alone. How about this? We'll work together with you. Finish early and go home early. Luong helped Shirley pack some boxes. He wondered. Are these prices for winter insulation? Shirley replied. Yes. How did you know, young master? After the storm. We are worried about food shortages in the short term. In addition to plowing the land to plant new crops in the fields. Also, we are renovating the existing insulation room. Setting up a high-altitude growing area. With the way of planting in steps. The top and bottom are separated. That way, we can fully introduce the existing space. To plant more plants. Originally, Uncle Ann was working with me today. But I don't know what kept her. Until now, she still hasn't come. Luong said excitedly. Not bad. There is this kind of aerial planting. Providing winter vegetables. No need to worry anymore. Billis praised. Shirley, you are really amazing. Shirley scratched her head in response. This is a Ministry of Agriculture that we came up with together. It's not just my doing. That's right, young master. We are planning to introduce this method of cultivation nationwide. But we are worried that the output will be too high and the market will not be able to consume it all. What should we do then? Luong laughed loudly. Ha, it won't be consumed domestically. We can just sell it overseas. Low winter temperature. Good for preserving vegetables. Add some preservation methods. Definitely no problem. I dare not say anything else. We are about to set up a flight route to the Sahara. Vegetables cannot be grown there in winter. Definitely high demand. Billis was delighted. We can take a spaceship to the Sahara later. Shirley said. I haven't been to the Great Steppe yet. I really want to go and see. Arrive at Sahara, Elsa's territory now. The banquet is in progress. The voice laughed and said. Come, let's drink. Your Highness is so generous. This time we used Han Dynasty wine to celebrate our victory. This time we won the battle. Your Highness will reward us greatly. You should get married, kid. I want a wife too. But where can I get one? Elsa looked at this scene inside. People are really easy to please. The female servant stepped forward and said. Your Highness, let's play. This time we have captured many tribes in a row. You should be happy. Elsa spoke. You go. The female subordinate wondered. When the party just started. He was still normal. Why is he suddenly like this? The Chao Chi tribe is about to attack. Elsa replied. Of course not. She whispered. If not, you must be missing His Highness Luong. I heard about it. You originally planned to personally escort the Oran prisoners to the Han Dynasty this time. How come you can't go and are sad? Elsa replied. I'm someone who is worried about gains and losses. Now is the right time. The military situation is urgent. Of course we have to stay in the Sahara. Elsa took out an envelope and said. I got a letter from Bella. She's about to unify the riot district. Elsa looked up at the sky and sobbed. I thought I was doing well enough. Now I suddenly realized. I'm actually very slow. Countless ancestors for the sake of the monster distribution map. Constantly charging forward without regard for sacrifice. Now that responsibility rests on my shoulders. I can truly unify the Sahara. Recreate the monster distribution map. The ancient glory of the monster kingdom. The female subordinate encouraged. We can now eat well and wear warm clothes. We also have our own territory. Compared to before, when we were wandering around all day, it is already better. Lord Bella just needs to move a little faster. Your Highness does not need to lower yourself like that. We feel that you will definitely be able to do it. Elsa pressed the little girl's head. I'm just feeling a little emotional. It's not your turn to comfort me yet. She grinned. Hee hee, I'm just worried that you're thinking too much. Another person came to report to Elsa. Your Highness, His Majesty Luong asked me to come and discuss something with you. Elsa was very curious about this news. She immediately ordered him. No need to be polite. Please sit down and talk. This guy explained. Actually, it's about the spaceship airport. His Majesty already said it. If your Highness can't successfully unify Sahara, Han Dynasty can help you build a spaceship airport. To make travel between Sahara and Han Dynasty easier. Of course, Han Dynasty will take care of all the inspection equipment, construction costs, and labor. After completion, we only need the right to operate for 5 years. The airport is still under the Sahara law to operate business. After 5 years, it will be returned to the people. What do you think? Elsa nodded in agreement. Okay. If you have any requests in the future, just come find me. The messenger bowed respectfully. Thank you for your trust, Your Highness. I will not be polite. I will go get the contract and show it to you for confirmation. The messenger said and stood up to leave. The female subordinate excitedly watched him. Oh dear, I originally thought that His Majesty Luong liked you. Looks like I was wrong. The female subordinate spoke up. How much does it cost to build a spaceship terminal? His Majesty Luong only wants the business rights for 5 years. This is no different from giving it away for free. This is not just liking. This is true love. Elsa asked her quietly. Have I been too indulgent with you lately? You dare to say anything like that? The female subordinate was silent, then said, Oh my. Your Highness is embarrassed. Elsa stood up and said. Responding to His Majesty Luong about the ores and prisoners, the number increased by 30%. Whoa. 30%? That much? Isn't that bad? There's no need for that. Elsa explained. Reciprocity is the basis of diplomatic relations. The Han Dynasty has helped us so much. Showing a little more goodwill is the right thing to do. Elsa did not forget to remind them. Also, winter is coming. Also, give them some wool. Choose the best quality. The female subordinate burst out laughing. Hee hee, Your Highness, Your Highness. So that's the kind of person you are. Ha ha ha. Return to Chang'an City Lord's Mansion. Lu Feng's family members sat chatting animatedly. Look at me. If this time it turns out to be 6. Complete the task successfully. Ha ha. Good thinking. If you succeed, I'll let you flick twice. Billis asked. Young master. You and Ellie came back so early. Everyone hasn't finished work yet. Lu Feng replied. Because the documents sent to me these past 2 days are few. They are all routine documents like school renovations during the summer vacation. They can be resolved very quickly. Lu Feng was dejected. Nothing happened so early. I'm a little uncomfortable. Billis smiled. What's there to be uncomfortable about? This shows that the Han Dynasty is developing very well now. The civil servants of the administrative office are very excellent. The young master should be happy. Lu Feng thought for a while and thought it made sense. That's right. Speaking of which, some people adapt quickly. Ellie was extremely excited. Oh my gosh, can you really shake it? I'm really amazing. Quick, quick, quick. I told you. Snap twice. Nicole was shy. Go easy. Go easy. Ellie shook her head. Ha ha. No way. She didn't snap lightly just now. Ellie tremblingly reached out her hand. Oh, come on. It doesn't hurt. Didn't I say I wouldn't be gentle? Ellie quickly treated me. I wasn't holding back. I just didn't have enough strength because I used both hands at the same time. At that moment, a soft cat's paw stepped forward. Nicole was delighted. Little cutie. You're back. Are you hungry? Luong was surprised. This was the cat that Ellie and Mina had picked up before. No, that's not right. I remember it wasn't like this originally. Billis looked at it in fascination. So cute. Nicole petted it and said. Yes, it is. After bathing it. After raising it for a few months, it turned into this. Even its fur grew longer. Now it is both obedient and cute. Very attractive. Do you two want to touch it? Ellie walked over and touched its belly. It was soft and nice. Ha ha. How could a kitten be so cute? Billis wondered. No problem. I'm a mermaid. The little cutie greeted her. Nicole said. It wants you to pet it. It likes you very much. Having said that, it stretched out on the floor for the girls to play with. Luong thought to himself. Playing with cats is very refreshing. Playing with it all the time is also refreshing. I have done a lot of work in picking up this little cat. Let me touch it. It doesn't show that I'm not respectful, right? Luong asked suddenly. If I remember correctly, it is a male. Does it need to be castrated? Before he finished speaking, the cat threw a few basic punches. It jumped up onto the wall beside it. Luong was speechless. The girls were confused. Young master. Are you okay? Young master. It wasn't on purpose. Ha ha. It's hard to see the young master like this. Luong was stunned. Could it have become a spirit? It could even understand my words. Nicole hugged the cat and explained. This is young master. It is in puberty. Children in puberty are very rebellious. I will teach it. Please don't be angry. Nicole petted the cat. She ran off happily. I'm going first, young master. Don't be angry, young master. Let me go take a look. Ellie blushed and said. This is the first time she can make you, young master, admit defeat. I want to play with her. Goodbye. The three of them left, leaving Luong alone. Feeling isolated. One person, two people, all gone. Luong leaned back on the chair. He sighed. He decided, give up. He barely had time. He should get some sleep. After a good night's sleep, there was a call from some young girls. Among them was Via, young master, young master. Luong then woke up. Hello, your majesty. Sorry to wake you up. We went to the administration building to find you. But you weren't there. We could only come here. Luong sat up. He smiled and replied. It's okay. I'm just resting. I won't disturb you. Do you two have something to say? Sit down and talk. Via then presented. It's like this. We have a matter related to the school that we would like to consult with you about. Luong wondered. Yes. If it's about the school renovation during the summer vacation and the recruitment of teachers. I already approved it this morning. Haven't you received it yet? The two ladies shook their heads. It's not those two things. Via explained. This is what my colleagues in the Ministry of Education and I investigated. Statistics on violence in schools. Luong was somewhat surprised. School violence. This is not being handled well. It is also a big problem. Via stood up and asked. Why did you bully your classmate? Tell me. The other boy replied cheekily. I bullied him. So what? Via sobbed as she recalled. When I first started, I just accidentally saved a student who was being bullied by his classmates. I didn't expect that after secretly investigating, I would discover that school violence was present in all aspects of the school. And almost every school had it. But this violence is not just physical. It is also psychological. It is not just between students. It is also between teachers and students. I think this is due to the increase in schools. Teachers and students also increased. Students' qualities are mixed. There are not enough teachers. There is not enough supervision. This is a very dangerous phenomenon. It must be seriously dealt with. Luong explained gently. She said that was only part of the reason. From a deeper level, this was determined by the national situation. The quality of life of the people had just passed the level of sufficiency. The overall quality was not high. It was natural for this situation to arise. This matter was much more complicated than she thought. It could not be resolved overnight. There was no need to rush. Via asked worriedly. Then should we just leave it like that? Luong shook his head. How could we not care? He added. At the deeper level, the problem can only be solved in a comprehensive way. Gradually. But there is something we can do now. Via is looking forward to it. Your Majesty. Tell me. I will take notes. Luong began to present. First, all those involved in school violence, regardless of whether they are the masterminds or accomplices, must be expelled from school. They must be expelled from work. They must be expelled from work. They must be investigated. In addition, they must be gathered together. They must face the victims directly and apologize. Next, for the children who have been abused, they must be assigned specialized teachers to provide psychological guidance to them. Via now understood the problem. She stood up and replied. Your Majesty. I will immediately let them go and execute it. I will also go to supervise. Luong then gave the signal. One person is enough. Via, wait a moment. Via was surprised. Yes, young master. Luong took out a new snack. He said, Via, it's been a long time since you've been here. Haven't you tried Nicole's new snack? Try it. Via replied excitedly, yes. She half guessed and half believed. What did the young master mean? Why did he keep her here? Was it just to let her try some breakfast? Via tried a piece. She suddenly felt like her life was blooming. She exclaimed. Wow, it's delicious. Nicole's cooking skills have improved again. Luong said, actually, there's nothing wrong with keeping you here. I just want to take care of you. Ever since you were assigned to the Ministry of Education, after taking charge of the school, you rarely come here. Is it because you're too busy with work? The thought of going too far made Via fall backwards. She choked and spat out her saliva. Luong saw that Via was acting strangely and asked. Are you okay? Why are you choking? Via replied in confusion. It's okay, it's okay. She felt very upset. Huh, why didn't I come? I can't tell you the truth because I like you. But because I had the will to not pursue you, I felt uncomfortable. That's why I didn't come. The garden of the city lord's mansion at this time. Via said, because many schools are still in the early stages of development. Many things have to be self-taught. So recently, I have been very busy. Luong replied. Do you need any help? I have been free lately. Via smiled and thanked the young master. Actually, we were almost done. We can rest after the graduation ceremonies at the schools are over next week. Via thought to herself, if the young master were to come and help, wouldn't that be going against her wish to avoid him? Luong was surprised. It was already graduation time. I remember this was Cheonan City's first graduation ceremony, right? Via was confused. Oh no, the young master didn't want to attend, did he? Luong instructed, the first batch of students graduating. It is very meaningful to the education career of Han Dynasty. In this way, she announced to the cities. Each place gathered the students who were about to graduate. Organize a group graduation ceremony. I will participate in Cheonan City. Each city will select 10 outstanding graduates as representatives. The city lords will issue certificates of merit. Badges. I am in charge of Cheonan City. In addition, I need to contact some investors. Via nodded her head in response. Yes, young master. Besides, her mind was wandering. Forget it. Let's put my little thoughts aside for now. Work is more important. Back to the stadium after a few days. The speaker's voice came on the loudspeaker. Everyone was invited into the auditorium. The graduation ceremony was about to begin. Nicole waved again. Via, come here. I brought a dress. Go change. Via replied. I can't leave. The students and parents are here. They need me. Nicole smiled again. Waving. There are other staff. Don't worry, come here. There were a few schoolboys in the middle of that. Exclaimed. His Majesty has arrived. Luong and his entourage entered the stadium. The crowd cheered. Greetings, Your Majesty. Your Majesty is so handsome today. Don't talk nonsense. Your Majesty is always handsome. Luong appeared in a smart suit. His hair was shiny. He looked very Western. He smiled brightly in response. Hello everyone. The student's eyes sparkled. I also want to become a fighter to protect His Majesty. You sit there and admire. With weak hands and feet like you won't be able to get in. A few other students were whispering. Speaking of which, why is His Majesty here? I know that. Another student eagerly replied. His Majesty will personally go up to the stage to present awards to the outstanding students. His friends were buzzing. Presenting awards. Really? You're lying. I don't believe it. We haven't heard any news. The student patted his chest and replied, of course it was true. Because I was one of the top 10 students. I participated in the rehearsal. The guys gather around now. Wow. Why didn't you tell us? Why did you pick Ale? Congratulations. Ale. Idiot. Ale has not graduated yet, but he is already writing editorials. His grades in school are also very good. Isn't he a bad student like you? Ale replied with a huff. Oh, I didn't mean to not say anything. During rehearsals, everyone was required to keep it a secret. I was also very upset. I could be in close contact with His Majesty. But I couldn't lie to everyone. You want to get beaten up, right? I'm so angry. Let's beat him up later. This isn't the right place. Ha ha. Okay. Luong, Ellie, Mina whispered. I really admire them. I haven't graduated yet. You can sneak in too. Be a graduating student for once. How wonderful. Full of youth. Vaya wondered. Is it appropriate for me to wear this? Nicole replied. Very appropriate. Extremely appropriate. Luong heard this and turned back curiously. Two people, Nicole and Via, appeared. Especially Via in a gorgeous dress. Nicole said. I recently made a dress. I feel it suits Via very well. What do you think? Is it beautiful? Ellie kept praising. Very beautiful. Very suitable for her. Luong and Mina were also amazed. Looking at Via's plump breasts, Ellie sighed. Everyone was bigger than me. Mina's hand slapped Via's sexy ass. She said enthusiastically. This outfit showed off her figure perfectly. Big breasts and curvy hips. Via replied, blushing. Oh, don't be like that. Nicole walked over to Luong and asked for his opinion. Young master, what do you think? Luong smiled and replied. Very nice. This fabric looks very breathable. Nicole explained. That's right. This is a new fabric that the fabric factory has just researched. It's very breathable and very suitable for making formal wear. Take a look. I said it was beautiful. Your body is also very good. You should show it off freely for everyone to see. Via didn't know what else to say. Okay. Okay. I can wear it, right? Via signaled to everyone. It's time. I'll go first and be the MC. The girls cheered loudly. Keep going. Go fast. Luong suddenly felt stuffy. It was already autumn. But wearing such a multi-layered formal attire was really uncomfortable. Luckily, Ellie's team wasn't on stage today. Otherwise, it would have been too much. Let's prepare some suits for everyone. Instead of formal attire. Both formal and airy. Luong thought. If everyone wears suits, might as well make some uniforms. Like Mina in her nurse outfit. Come on, young master. Take off your shirt and see. Or Ellie in a nurse's outfit. Let me help you give an injection. Luong felt excited. It doesn't feel bad at all. After a while, he shook his head repeatedly. In such an important situation, I could be absent-minded. I must have been too idle recently. It's easy to think of random things. Now the program has begun. Via speaks. Parents. Students. Hello. Hello, Ms. Via. The stadium erupted with cheers. Luong was quite surprised. There were so many people. There were a total of 200 graduates at the scene. There were also their parents. Of course there were many. Via faced so many people. Unexpectedly, she didn't feel the slightest bit embarrassed. Nicole spoke up. Young master. It's time for a change. I heard from Via that everyone wants to shorten the speech and award ceremony. Luong replied. Yes. We originally designed the graduation ceremony. It was for investors and government departments. After all, it still needs to guarantee future career options. Via was excited as she said this. Next. Your Majesty, please. We invite Your Majesty to the stage. Luong took the microphone and said. All students. Hello. Congratulations on completing the elementary education. Becoming the first graduating class of the Han Dynasty. I feel proud of everyone. The crowd cheered. Thank you, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, look at me. We are also very honored. Luong continued. You are all very outstanding. But graduating does not mean you have finished studying. There are still many things in this world worth learning. So please continue to work hard. Don't be too arrogant. You are just finishing your school years. Officially entering society. I believe that no matter what industry you join, you can get a decent salary. But I also hope that no matter what job you do, don't forget to contribute your abilities to society. Make our great Han Dynasty even better. Lu Feng's voice was clear and decisive in every word. The entire stadium cheered loudly. Long live Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. We are willing to serve you. We will work hard. We will give our all for the country. The fireworks continued to go off. Via was excited for the next performance of the program. She spoke. Next. Please invite the 10 outstanding graduates to the stage. His Majesty will personally present the awards and diplomas. Wow, I didn't expect there to be such a step. Why not me? They are all so excellent. What are you? You didn't study hard before. Do you regret it yet? Ha ha. Luong stepped forward and said. Ale, I heard you got a chance to work for the editorial office. I'm really looking forward to your articles. Ale was surprised. It's only been a rehearsal. Your Majesty can remember his own name. Deeply grateful for the appreciation of His Majesty Luong. Ale replied brightly. Yes, Your Majesty. I will definitely do my best. Luong walked over to the other students and gave them his praise. Congratulations, Joan. I heard you want to be a teacher. I believe you will become an excellent teacher in the future. Ale looked on and thought. Our ideals and direction of development were not mentioned in the rehearsal at all. Did His Majesty find out about us from behind? His Majesty is too good. Luong was satisfied. In conclusion. Congratulations everyone. From today onwards, you have officially graduated. Next, Miss Vea will explain to you everything related to choosing a career. Nicole walked over and asked. Young master. Is it too hot? Do you need to change clothes? Luong shook his head. It's none of my business. Ellie added. If the weather is so hot, then there is no need to wear formal wear. Or is it okay if I go to present the award? When you come back, you will get a heatstroke and Nicole will have to take care of you. Isn't that hard? Amidst the excitement of the festival, Luong laughed loudly. Ha ha. My body is very strong. I can handle it. If you were to replace them, they would have already fallen asleep. Furthermore, this is a banquet for the future of Chang'an City. How could I be absent? Returning to the city lord's mansion in Chang'an City. Lu Feng's girls discussed things. Ellie, did you not sleep well last night? And Flay too. What's wrong with you guys? Nina wondered. I stayed up all night reading Lucy's new horror novel. I was so scared. Me too. It scared me so much that I couldn't sleep until almost morning. Speaking of which, it's been a long time since I've seen Lucy. Luong heard that and immediately spoke up. If you two are sleepy. After eating, go back to your room and sleep some more. Then he remembered. That's right. Yesterday he asked the administrative office to bring the official documents here. Have they arrived yet, Ellie? Ellie replied. They were delivered early this morning. Nicole wondered. Young master. Aren't you going to the administrative office today to handle official business? Nina replied. No, yesterday he secretly informed us. There's something at home today. We'll work from home. Asked what it was. He wouldn't say. Luong smiled and explained. It is related to our future events. I will give you a riddle. Try to guess. The girls are talking now. Oh dear. I should go to sleep. I'm not sleeping anymore. I have to go to the Air Force. We'll know for sure today anyway. Young master, I'll go to the kitchen and take a look. Dees. Go. I still have work to do at the security office today. Having said that, the ladies all found excuses to leave. Lu Feng was left alone. Can you please show me some respect? After all, I am the emperor. In the afternoon, Ellie met Lu Feng at the office. The statistical report on the orientation of this year's graduates is here. Young master. Would you like to take a look? Lu Feng agreed. Ellie explained. Over 60% of graduates tend to go into government or government-related positions. The rest are basically private enterprises. But there are a few people who are unemployed. The Ministry of Education conducted an investigation into these people. It was discovered that these people have very uncertain futures. Lu Feng came up with a plan. Find a way to conduct a second round of career counseling for these people. Maybe try combining career and personality. Maybe it can help them more. Ellie nodded. Okay. I will keep a close eye on these people in the future. Lu Feng suddenly remembered. That's right. After accepting the graduates, have the government departments in the cities counted the number of employees and reported them? Ellie replied. It's been reported. But I remember from the administrative court that our shortage of civil servants is quite large. This time the shortage is not enough to fill the vacancy. Especially in remote areas. Basically no one wants to go there. It's difficult. Lu Feng said. It is normal for people to want to go to high places and not to go to remote places. We can adjust the promotion mechanism and encourage people to go to low levels. In addition, we can continue to recruit people. 2 years. Basically, we can solve the problem of staff numbers. Ellie took notes carefully. Okay. This needs reference data. I will process it later. Then I will continue to show it to you. Discuss further. Lu Feng nodded. Thank you for your hard work. Lu Feng gave another task. In addition, there is this thing that needs to be presented to the Ministry of Education. Take a look. Ellie was surprised. Talent distribution? Lu Feng explained. If in 2 years, the government department's population can basically be filled, then we should start thinking about the direction of other graduates now. For example, some people like drawing. Let them go to art school early. After graduation, they will no longer be confused. Some people like inventions, let them have more contact with the science and technology department. Ellie felt very enlightened. Young master. This plan is great. Not only can it bring out everyone's strengths, it can also promote the development of science and technology. Today, I will find an opportunity to give it to the Ministry of Science and Technology. Suddenly, it rained heavily and thunder boomed. Oh, it's raining! Ellie exclaimed. Everyone come with me here. Nicole summoned the maids. Ordered. Quickly close all open windows. She asked worriedly. The thunder was so loud just now. Were you too startled? Do you need some snacks to calm down? Lu Feng replied. I'm fine. It's just that a coward was clearly startled. He smiled and pointed at Ellie. Her fur was all ruffled up after that thunderclap. Huh? What? What's with the cowardice? Look at the outside. It's exactly like the scene in Lucy's book, The Nightmare. She shuddered as she recounted the horror details of the book. The rainy day was dark and gloomy. The murderer wore a raincoat and sneaked into the castle. He didn't take anything. The box in his hand contained the female owner who was taken away not long ago. He stood in front of the door. He knew that the male owner was worried and absent-mindedly waiting for the person he loved. He opened the heavy door and stepped inside. The figure was cold and ominous. Someone entered the room just as Ellie reached the most horrifying part. That appearance made Ellie and Nicole scream in horror. Could it be that the story of the adaptation was real? Ah, no, it can't be. Lucy said on the first page of the book. The story is adapted from a true story. Young master, the murderer has already arrived. Nicole was surprised. It can't be. Uncle Eli walked in and asked. What's wrong? Am I that scary? Lu Feng laughed in response. It's Uncle Eli, where are you girls' eyes and noses? Ha, Uncle Eli, you're not scary. It's because they read Lucy's horror novels. They think too much and scare themselves. Ha ha. Old Eli laughed loudly. So that's how it is. Is this the book, The Man of the Night? Yuffie also really likes to read it. Luong stepped forward and said. This is it, right? You've worked hard. Uncle Eli is honored. He said. Today I made some improvements. That's why I'm here now. I've kept you waiting for a long time. Take a look. The two girls were shocked. Could it be a corpse? It could be. Uncle Eli opened the box and said, this is a part of the heating pipe and hot air pipe. Please take a look. The two girls now breathed a sigh of relief. Ellie wondered. Uncle Eli, why did you bring these stainless steel pipes here and specially pack them in boxes? Uncle Eli replied. This is a hot air duct that the young master asked me to make. I don't know the details. Luong replied enthusiastically. The boiler heats up hot water or hot air through the pipes and enters the house through the trachea and heating pad. Through the heat dissipation, the temperature in the room can be increased. Our walls are made of stone. Winter is very cold. With the heater, we will not be afraid of the cold anymore. Nicole nodded. This is nice. But don't we already have a fireplace? Luong explained. It is very dangerous to light a fire in a closed room. It is not as safe as gas heating. Furthermore, if it is effective this winter, we can expand it. It is beneficial to the country and the people. Luong instructed. Uncle Eli, this is the layout of the heating pipe and heating pad. I've finished drawing it. Come here and take a look. Nicole was excited. Is what the young master said true? If the heat can reach a high enough temperature, we can wear summer clothes in the room during the winter. Ellie replied. If the young master does it, it will definitely not be a problem. By then, not only will we be able to wear summer clothes, we can also take a bath in the room while watching the snow outside the window. Okay, I'll make some breakfast then and we can eat while we shower. Thinking about that scene, the two girls hugged each other and sobbed. Luong thought, now you're not afraid of thunder anymore, you're taking a bath and watching the snow. When you get sick, it's enough for you girls to endure. But speaking of soaking, it's better to soak in a hot spring. Well, it's not like it's not good. The scene shifts to Field's base, in a vast, desolate forest. Grey Deacon solemnly instructed the soldiers to prepare for battle. The explosive bullet was already wrapped in cloth and cotton and secured in a box. Because the mechanism of that thing is still unknown, please be careful, the leading soldier replied. Yes. Grey Deacon continued to remind, go, definitely use the fastest speed to deliver the intelligence and explosives to His Majesty's hands. The soldier standing in front confidently replied. My lord, we will definitely complete the mission. Then they kicked the horses' butt and set off, shouting loudly. On the way to deliver the goods to His Majesty Field, the soldiers had to cross 7,749 rivers and large lakes. Horses ran wildly through the unexplored city, with not a soul in sight. As they ran through the vast pine forest, the leading soldier pulled on his horse's reins and loudly signaled his subordinates to stop. They stopped at a fork in the road. The leading soldier had a vaguely doubtful expression and said, if I remember correctly, this side's guard is closer. The subordinate standing behind him looked extremely worried and advised, Captain, you want to take the defensive route? You're carrying something very dangerous. The captain's expression showed quite a bit of interest. He smiled and replied, no problem. The explosive bullets have been carefully packaged. The most important thing is that the Lord said to use the fastest speed to deliver it to His Majesty, then said that these soldiers would head left and take the defensive route. But the road was not very smooth. Transporting heavy objects and taking the defensive route caused the horses to stagger and stumble, even tripping over rocks. The captain of the guard panicked and reminded his horse. Your friend is not a new horse, is he? Be very careful on this road. The Lord is waiting for our good news. At the base, Grey Deacon was restless, pacing back and forth, his expression pensive. Seeing this, a soldier spoke up to comfort him. My lord, I know you are worried about them, but you have been standing here for half an hour. Rest assured, the blacksmiths have been studying that thing for several days, trying to open it. There is no problem. Grey Deacon narrowed his eyes and tried to appear indifferent. He coldly shouted, what do I have to worry about? Let's go home. The soldier replied with a forced smile, yes, don't worry, you've been too tired these past few days with all kinds of intelligence and lost strongholds. Why don't you go and rest a bit? I know everyone has their opinions, but no, it's no problem. Grey Deacon glared at the soldier and shouted, shutting his mouth. He remembered the time he was defeated by Timothy. The soldier ran over with a panicked expression and reported, Sir, this is bad, another stronghold has been captured. They collected the mine from Timothy to examine it. The soldier said, Sir, we really can't research anything about this, we can't get any intelligence. Why don't we surrender to Timothy? Can you do it in the end, sir? Grey Deacon looked thoughtful and calculating in his heart. The fortress was captured with great difficulty, but was taken back by Timothy. The news of defeat came like winter snowfall. He originally planned to study the explosive shells clearly, then present it to His Majesty. Wasting several days did not yield any intelligence. The army became more and more confused. His Majesty was also suspected because of his incompetence. Suddenly there was a loud explosion from a mountain about 500 miles away from Field's base, accompanied by a bright flash of light that lit up the sky. A giant column of fire rose up, forming the shape of a demonic skull. Seeing this, Grey Deacon quickly ordered his subordinates. It was the direction the intelligence squad had just left. Quickly send someone to investigate, the soldiers loudly replied. Understood. Grey Deacon's expression turned doubtful as he thought to himself, having a bad feeling. Could this be a trap set by Timothy? She already knew that if our blacksmith couldn't solve it, she would bring it to His Majesty. Could it be that she had already plotted against me? No, the result is still unknown. I can't go crazy. Be confident, Timothy might be going crazy too. Anyway, the string I left behind worked. The scene changes to Inglu City. The atmosphere is quite bustling, the sky is blue, the clouds are white. People were bustling about the streets buying and selling goods. Come and see, these are fresh vegetables, and there were endless exclamations of admiration. Oh, it really could break that stone slab. His Highness's army was majestic and imposing, all the way heading towards Field's stronghold. Now our Majesty's territory is growing larger and larger. His Highness is truly formidable. Robin was attracted by the eye-catching ceramic vases, so he sat down and asked the owner, how much is this? Axe's eyes were also opened. His eyes were filled with surprise as he asked, you have so many things, is business very good? Then Robin and Axe walked on with their arms around each other's shoulders. After surveying the market prices for a while, Robin concluded with an interested expression. In the market, the prices of daily necessities are not expensive. The shops are doing well. Axe also added. The entertainment shops are all open. And I see that there are many people coming to buy things. Everyone has resumed production. Everything will get better. Robin's face was a little troubled. He said, it's getting better, but I've heard some rumors. He thought back to the story he had accidentally heard yesterday when he was walking down the street. Two young men were whispering to each other. It was said that he had borrowed the devil's unlucky item to be able to hit him. If it wasn't the devil's item, how could it have left such a big hole in the ground? His Highness Timothy was truly a scary person. Master Robin kept hesitating. Axe asked curiously, huh? What rumor? As soon as they returned to the palace, His Majesty Timothy, followed by two soldiers, came out to ask about the situation. You guys are back, how is the city? Can you still maintain life? Axe smiled and explained the current situation. Your Highness, the city has recovered very well now. There is no need to worry about prices. There are even people performing chest-smashing stone performances on the streets. Not only that, I also heard that there is a night market at night. Hearing this, Timothy was also quite interested. She said, there is also a night market. That's good. That's good. Robin stood behind. His face was filled with bewilderment. He looked blankly at His Highness Timothy. He approached His Highness. Timothy asked worriedly. What's wrong? Robin stroked his chin and said calmly. No problem. I got the same information as Axe. Don't worry, Your Highness. Axe continued to ask. That's right. His Highness is worried about everyone's living conditions. Why don't you go and see for yourself? Robin smiled and said. It's not because of being too popular. Fear of being recognized. Timothy replied. Being too popular is also a burden. Night had fallen. The city was still ablaze with lights. But it was quiet. It must have been midnight. Everyone was sleeping under their covers. Timothy plopped down on the sofa after a tiring day of work. She stretched and yawned. It was very hard for Tuoi. But recently she had regained so many strongholds. The situation was stable. She could let everyone live in peace. That was great. Timothy stood at the window to observe. She looked at the scene of people below. Then she exclaimed, this is the night market that Axe was talking about. Because she was so curious and attracted, Timothy decided to disguise herself. She mixed in with the night market to wander around. She looked at the items here for a while. She went into a jewelry store. Ceramics for the nobility. Timothy picked up the jade bracelet. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at it. She exclaimed in admiration. How wonderful. She turned to look at the ceramic vase in front of her. She also kept praising it. This is also very sophisticated. Timothy stopped at a rather crowded restaurant. People were lining up to get in. It was so tight that it spilled out onto the street. She looked at the name of the restaurant and wondered. Authentic Han Dynasty snacks. Was it really true? Then Timothy looked straight ahead with a slightly sad expression. He thought to himself. So the night market only has one street. Looks like I still have to try harder. Then she wandered around to every big and small shop. She saw all kinds of goods in the night market. Timothy was walking down a small alley when he heard a few people talking about him. He stopped to listen. The blue-haired girl asked the purple-haired girl. Have you heard? About His Highness Timothy. The other person replied. It was that, right? I heard about it. The two beauties began to gossip and mock Timothy. She is a queen. She has no power. She was defeated by His Majesty Field before. Now she suddenly became so strong. That is why people say she has a deal with the devil. The price is our lives. It can't be true. Timothy stood behind, stunned. I didn't expect the people to think of anything. The two girls continued talking to each other. They cursed Timothy to die soon. I think it's true. Fortunately, we are very respectful to the master. The master will protect us. She will die. Everyone prayed to the god. The demons would come to take her soul. Why didn't she go to hell quickly? She would stop at nothing to win. Hearing this, Timothy's face darkened. She felt a surge of anger in her heart. She thought to herself, I've always tried to protect the people. I never thought you would think of me like this. Wish for me to die. Suddenly, Timothy felt goosebumps all over her body. She felt a force attacking her from behind. Two hands with sharp nails were approaching to squeeze her. Timothy immediately turned around. Backpedaled and counterattacked. She shouted loudly. How bold! What are you trying to do? So it was Robin. He said with a bewildered expression. Your Highness. It really is you. I saw you leave the mansion from afar. I was worried about your safety. Lean was following behind. I didn't expect to lose track of you at the market. Only then did I find you here. Robin also felt indignant on behalf of His Highness Timothy when he witnessed the conversation between the two people just now. His eyes became irritated and he said. No, that's not the main problem. The problem here is that the two people over there are too much. People who work so hard every day. They dare to spread false rumors behind their backs. Timothy put a firm hand on Robin's shoulder to keep him from making a move. She advised Robin. Don't be rash. It's not that simple. Stop talking. Come with me. Then Robin followed His Highness Timothy. But he still felt a little resentful. As he walked, he thought. What does His Highness mean by this? After Timothy and Robin left, the two girls who had been badmouthing His Highness Timothy turned back to see if they were still hanging around. It turns out they were just putting on a show for everyone to see. The black-haired girl said, and left. The blonde woman asked, do you think she heard us at all? Why didn't she react and just left? The blonde woman's eyes became fierce. She continued. After she left the mansion, we followed her. We saw her hide there with our own eyes. We must have heard her. It seems she is more cunning than we thought. This time we failed. But rest assured. God will definitely punish her. It won't be long before she too goes to hell. The black-haired woman replied. Yes. We have conveyed the will of the master. When Yadian returns to the master's arms, we will definitely be able to have a place in the church. His Highness Timothy and Robin were now pressed against the wall behind them, listening to everything. Robin now understood His Highness' calm actions. He said, they were the people of the cult leader. The cult leader had risen again? Your Highness, should I lead people to capture them? His Highness Timothy immediately spoke to reassure Robin, calm down a bit. Don't you think they really were just a coincidence that I met? Robin looked at Timothy blankly and asked. Isn't that right? His Highness Timothy said gently, yes, but not entirely yes. She kicked a pebble to the other side of the road. Timothy began to analyze. Think about it, if I were still the young queen who was alone and had no support back then. I was lucky to win. I would be very uneasy. Hearing those words, I would definitely be both angry and furious, and would order people to arrest me. This place is near the night market. They made a fuss. Other residents quickly came running. Who knows, maybe there are people from them among them. Once the matter becomes big, they will turn white into black to gain the people's favor. At that time, it will be difficult to stop people's mouths. Whether to arrest them or not. Arresting them will confirm the rumors. If they don't arrest them, they will be happy that they succeeded. Using this sneaky theft to harm me, it means that the Pope has not yet fully risen. He is just looking for an opportunity like a cornered dog. After listening to His Highness Timothy's detailed analysis, Robin felt like he had gained more knowledge. He thought to himself, I still couldn't see it. Then he scratched his head and walked away. It felt really uncomfortable. He raised his voice and wondered. If what he said was true, they definitely wouldn't stop there. Maybe there was an even bigger conspiracy behind it. We can't just sit and wait. What should we do? Her Highness Timothy's expression turned sinister. She gave a meaningful smile. Clenching his fists, his eyes filled with determination, he said. Of course we have to do it. But not now. Don't worry. If they have already started, we naturally have to put on a good show. Robin's mind was filled with the image of the strong Yadian city. Robin's eyes became more determined. He thought to himself. The matter His Highness was referring to. Robin recalled His Highness Timothy's instructions. Arrange things according to my instructions. For the next few days, just calmly observe. Robin looked at the people walking back and forth on the street and thought to himself. Indeed. Suddenly an old woman walked down the street, holding a holy spear. Her face was tearful and she said worriedly. God! Please forgive these children. They are just blinded by the devil. At the same time, a mother and son appeared. They also carried holy spears. The son struggled and cried under the pressure. His mother pulled him and said, Mom! I don't want to go. The mother held her son's hand inside, smiling awkwardly. Still gently saying, Stupid boy. You need to pay for your sins. Only then can you live well again. Robin walked down the street, lost in thought. It had only been a few short days. The cult had already penetrated deeply and widely. It was just as His Highness had said. There must be supporting forces here. Next. Just follow the lead. Agree on a capture. The scene changes to the church of the cult. From inside the church comes a greeting. Hail to our great master. I only saw the crowd of people, old and young, men and women, all kneeling before the official in the church. One of the young men kneeling on the ground boldly asked, Cult master, what are you doing? The guy next to him interrupted. I heard they're going to be preaching a new doctrine tonight. Then the young man behind him raised his hand and said with a defiant expression. We're already guilty of submitting to Timothy. You still dare to talk? The gaunt, bony-cheeked cult leader was sitting on the chair. He pretended to be kind and spoke morally. When people were born, they were already sinful. They should have restrained themselves for their entire lives. To atone for their sins. But we did not atone for our sins. Instead, we were bewitched by Timothy and submitted to the devil. Because of her, we exchanged evil power. Our sins were one level worse. These words of the leader made the people below extremely confused and panicked. They were all in a panic, begging. What should we do? Leader. We didn't do it on purpose. I'm not going to hell, right? I don't want to go to hell. Please come down. Let us again. Leader, I beg you. Save us. The sect leader calmly replied to reassure the people, of course, we don't need to be too panicked. He held up a piece of paper with something written on it and continued to act like a holy person, saying that the God knows that everyone is blinded, so he is giving everyone a chance to do it again. As long as you have this atonement slip, you will become the most devout believer of the main God, and can wash away all your sins. After death, you can go to the world of paradise, and in the next life, you will definitely have a completely pure self, and be reincarnated into a good Yadian. The ignorant people who were being psychologically manipulated stood up, each one of them stretched out their hands, wanting to possess the nice piece of paper that the cult leader called the redemption paper. While standing up and looking at the paper, they said, Your Excellency, please grant me the redemption paper, I agree to offer all of myself to the cult leader. The old priest stepped down and handed the paper to a young girl. He smiled and said, I only have one piece of paper in my hand, I can only give it to the person sitting closest to me. The girl looked up at the old priest with eyes full of gratitude, she said, Thank you, priest. He stood up on the high platform again, spread his arms and said loudly, The God knows your repentance, and the other brothers, please go to the other side and find your own atonement papers. Pray for our forgiveness, dear Pope. A young man with blue hair and a humble appearance approached the cultist and begged, Please give me one too. The cultist replied, The paper just now was given to me after the cult leader had baptized me. These atonement papers all contain great power, and you can only endure them if you give your all. He raised his index finger and loudly sold the thing that was supposed to cleanse one's sins. 100 silver coins, a donation of 100 silver coins would get one piece of redemption paper, there was no limit on the number. The priest returned to the study. He smiled arrogantly and asked Avis. Avis, are our followers very pious? Avis bowed his head respectfully and replied, yes, I can probably sell out all 500 copies printed this time. She also smiled slyly and continued. My lord, this blessing, the grand opening can bring great benefits to the church, up to 20,000 gold coins. Right now is the war period, the price of houses and land is very cheap, we can take this opportunity to save up. The old priest replied, okay, this matter will be left to you. Besides, aren't there nobles who want to donate their houses? Be generous and print them more paper, no one will refuse. The Avis woman obeyed and replied, okay, I will do my best. The old priest looked out the window, then said with a face full of glee. At this rate, the priest will recover to his former state. It's just a matter of days. Suddenly a voice rang out from outside. Oh, really? The old priest was startled and turned around to look. It turned out to be His Highness Timothy, Robin, and a few soldiers who rushed in. Timothy held his sword and pointed it straight at the old sect leader. His eyes coldly said, I see, the person who is sentenced to hanging will only be hanged for a day or two, my lord. Seeing this, the old sect master trembled and said, what do you want to do? We have a lot of followers, don't think that you can capture us with these people. The woman quickly hid behind the old sect master's back and advised His Highness Timothy not to act rashly. If things get bigger, it won't be beneficial to anyone. Your Highness Timothy gave a mocking smile. She said, you must not think that we only brought a few people like this. Robin looked at His Highness Timothy with pride and said, His Highness has gone into battle, there must be no mistakes. The woman Avis looked outside the church and asked the old priest in panic, when did so many people appear outside? The old priest looked up at the roof of the church and saw many soldiers, so he broke out in a sweat and said in shock, there were also soldiers deployed above. His Highness Timothy laughed loudly and admitted, that's right, we've surrounded them all here. Then the soldiers came and tied the hands and feet of these two men. The woman Avis grimaced and said, it hurts so much, go easy on me. Bishop. Please think of a way. The old bishop angrily shouted at Avis to shut up. Then the two of them knelt down in front of Timothy. Robin, with a very excited expression, announced the number of people present in the church. Everyone was present without exception. A total of 1 priest, 16 followers, and 2,362 parishioners, Timothy said, very good. She walked closer to the old priest and asked coldly, are you the priest? That Avis woman still says the church's words, selling her soul to the devil, what do you want? The two young men looked at the old priest with worried faces. The brown-skinned man said, that woman doesn't want to attack the priest, does she? The white-skinned man could only pray fervently, please don't, priest. Timothy swung the sword high and caught it, holding it firmly in his hand. Her eyes were sharp as she looked at the old priest. She smiled coldly and praised him, priest, you are not bad, you can fool so many people. The old priest calmly replied, compared to your highness's strong methods, I am still far behind. Then she gave the old master a fatal blow, the followers cried their eyes out, they screamed miserably. Cursing His Highness Timothy, my lord, devil, I vow not to let you die in peace, God, please save my lord. Actually, this whole thing was just a show that Timothy had put on. She used a knife to cut the ropes around the old sect leader's hands. Timothy asked the sect leader. At this time, everyone's attacks were not heavy, are you okay? The old sect leader replied, thank you, your highness, I'm fine. His Highness Timothy smiled and continued. At first, the people at the intelligence agency said that they had convinced the high-ranking officials of a remaining religious sect. They said that after receiving the mission, he immediately left without hesitation. The old priest smiled and replied, at that time the matter was urgent. I was still worried that His Highness would feel that I was being rude and would blame me. Timothy immediately said, how could that be? I can't thank you enough, if someone hadn't gathered them here, the matter wouldn't have ended so well. The group of believers went from one surprise to another. They looked extremely confused, just staring blankly, looking at each other and asking, what is this, is the leader also following the devil? Avis was also fooled spectacularly. She was shocked and questioned the old sect leader, my lord. You are one of the chosen sect leaders. How could you follow that woman? Aren't you the most devout believer? The old sect master told Avis and everyone else the whole story. That's right, I was the most devout believer before. But since the sect master and His Highness fought, Field joined the battle group. Countless people died of illness, starvation, and were killed in battle. If the God Master really existed, why didn't he appear? Because in this world, there is basically no God. The gods we believe in are just people who want to protect their own interests. And a fictional fantasy, like the 100 silver note for redemption, is a fiction made up by believers who want to plunder wealth. A disciple was in tears, unable to believe this fact. He immediately gave evidence. Impossible, my illness was clearly cured by your holy water. The old sect leader sighed and replied. That holy water is added to the medicine researched and created by the Han Dynasty. Of course it can cure diseases. His Highness Timothy walked over and patted the old priest on the shoulder, smiling. Don't waste any more words with them. You've worked hard lately. Go down and rest first. Let us handle the rest. The old priest humbly replied. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness. Then I'll leave it to you. He said and turned to leave. His Highness Timothy sternly ordered Robin. Release our spies who have been planted in the cult. Let them rest. All the rest of you, escort them to prison. Separate them. Make their identities clear. Then follow the rules. Robin obeyed and replied. Yes, Your Highness. Axe called out. Big brother Robin. Wait for me. I'll go too. Nyoda was amazed at His Highness Timothy's methods. His Highness was able to think of this method. It completely solved this problem. It was so amazing. Duke Willer also had to admire it. It's not entirely my credit. His Majesty Lu Feng had thought of this long ago. She remembered the book that His Highness Lu Feng had given her. Lu Feng said generously. That's right. This is for her. Yadian has been ruled by theocracy for a long time after all. It definitely takes a lot of effort to govern a religion. Timothy asked in confusion. What is this? Timothy smiled smugly. Proudly praising His Highness Lu Feng. Your Majesty is a master of things. You are worthy of my liking. Nyoda, you smell love here. He asked frankly. Does Your Highness like Your Majesty? Transferred to Chang'an City's City Lord's mansion. Lu Feng was sitting there examining the official documents. Suddenly, a sudden sneeze came uncontrollably. Spitting out saliva. He said resentfully. Who is scolding me? Nina quickly joked. Maybe she's missing someone. Suddenly the maid ran in a panic with a confused face and announced. Your Majesty. Prince Knight and Prince Nemo of the Torola Empire came to visit. They did not have an appointment. We were going to ask them to leave. But they brought too many things. You see. Lu Feng said. There is still plenty of time. Let them in. We still have half an hour before we leave. Enough time. The two princes Nemo and Knight entered the living room and sat down. Nicole brought out tea to welcome them, then bowed respectfully and said, Please have some. Seeing her, Prince Nemo hurriedly asked, Wow. Are you really Nicole? You opened a food store that we really like, Nicole humbly replied. That's too much praise. The Knight Prince looked at Lu Feng with a serious expression and said, Your Majesty Lu Feng. I'm very sorry that we've been in Chang'an City for so long. We've only just come to see you now. Lu Feng smiled and replied, It's okay. I know you two are very busy. But you two today brought so many gifts. Is there something wrong? Knight placed his hand on his chest and explained his reason. We are about to return home to thank you for your care during this time. The two of us have also caused you a lot of trouble. Therefore, we would like to give you a small gift. Thank you. Prince Nemo also continued. These are all Torola specialties. They cannot compare to the exquisite products of the Han Dynasty. His Majesty Lu Feng smiled awkwardly and waved his hand in response. Is that so? Thank you too. The actions of the two princes made him look at them differently. These two people, except for causing him some trouble at first, lacked a bit of tact. They were actually very good people. Lu Feng called out to Nicole. Nicole. Didn't the winery just deliver new wine? Tell someone to bring a barrel over. Nicole replied cheerfully. Okay. His Majesty Lu Feng continued to chat with the two princes of the Torola Kingdom. I heard that both of you really like wine. You gave us so many gifts. Consider this a small gift in return. This is our newly developed spring wine. It hasn't been released yet. But we've tried it. It tastes quite good. The two princes' eyes lit up as they looked at the bottles of spring wine in the barrel and drooled. They couldn't help but thank His Highness. Lord Lu Feng, you are truly a good person. You even know that we like wine. You even gifted us with a new wine that you have researched and formulated. Your Majesty can only rely on this barrel of wine. From now on, you will be our big brother. Lu Feng said embarrassedly. It's not that bad. The two Torola princes replied in unison. You're right. Big brother, Lu Feng continued. Do you two have anything else to do? I have to go out later. The Knight Prince replied. No, we're going back now, big brother. The two princes excitedly carried the wine barrel back. Nemo's face still couldn't hide his joy. He said, let's try it and see how it is. Knight sighed and said, no way. He tore up the gift before leaving the big brother's mansion. Not appropriate. Nemo replied with a sullen face. Oh. Knight quickened his pace. He said as he walked. But we can take it to the tavern next door to drink. Nemo smiled happily and replied. Okay. We can also share it with friends. Ellie and Mina stood watching the two princes happily walking on the street. Ellie sighed and said. These two people. They really don't match the image of a prince in my eyes at all. Mina also spoke up. Wouldn't it be fine if she just said they looked stupid? Ellie turned back to look at His Majesty Luong and asked. That's right, young master. Letting them take the goods is fine. But is it really okay to let them take so many blacksmiths? His Majesty Luong replied. That's right. They won't be able to grasp any key techniques anyway. They are indeed two children. But looking at them gives me a new way of thinking about Yadian's deployment. Scene changes to Air Force Air Defense. The young men of the bird tribe were practicing swordsmanship. Flay reported the situation to His Highness Luong. Mina taught everyone a very useful fighting technique. Everyone's flying skills were now more flexible. The phase of rubbing against the new spaceship was also very good. Luong said with a face full of relief. Then I can rest assured. This mission is very simple. Except for some rescue missions. The most important thing is to burn the food storage. But there are some tactics to pay attention to here. Specifically, Ellie and Mina will explain more clearly to you. Ellie spoke. Those things need to be combined with the map to say. Let's go to the break room. Hearing Lu Feng's first mission, Flay said sadly and disappointedly. Just burning the granaries. I thought it was my first time on the front lines. I could commit a massacre. Luong stepped forward and said to Flay. Why is that? I still have an important task for you. Hearing that, Flay's eyes lit up. He hurriedly asked. What task? Young master, rest assured. I will definitely complete the task. I will definitely not disappoint your expectations. Luong smiled awkwardly and said. All right. All right. Let's hear what the mission is first. Flay was ready to listen to the mission Luong gave her, she said. All right. So what is the mission? Lu Feng's eyes were cold as he replied. Kidnapping. At Shannan City Air Force. Flay dressed as a bandit or something. Flay asked very skillfully. Young master, who do you want to kidnap? Do you need to capture alive? Assassin or assassin? Leave it to me. Guaranteed to complete the mission. Luong thought helplessly with a smile. Little girl. Can you be normal? He spoke up to instruct. To get this mission, you need to pass the test. If our target is the enemy's rear leader, there is very strict protection and vigilance. How will you arrange a squad to complete the mission? Give me 10 minutes to think. Pass. This mission is yours. Flay enthusiastically raised his hand and replied. Okay. No problem. Everyone is at the training ground right now. I will definitely do it. A moment later, Flay returned to Luong to report. Young master. I've chosen. Luong asked in surprise. Are you sure? The time hasn't come yet. The little girl nodded in confirmation. Then he replied. Wilson and Nancy were not the strongest. But their strength was the best in the team. They could completely capture someone without anyone knowing. Phoebe, her ability to spy is very good. With her, no matter when she just sneaked in or when she was preparing to retreat, she has the ability to observe the direction of the opponent's movements. The fourth person, Lev. Lev's abilities in all areas are above average. It's like he's not good at anything but knows everything. Whenever there's a problem in action, he can quickly replace it. The last one. It's me. Small body. Fast speed. Also very good at hiding. Want to capture the target without making a sound. Of course need to give him medicine. I'll leave this to you. Luong looked up at the little girl and asked. Is 5 people enough? Flay affirmed. 5 people are too much. Too many people. It might be easy to be discovered. Young master. What do you think? Luong sighed and said. You're like this. You're giving me a bit of a headache. Flay heard that and asked worriedly. Headache. Young master. Am I not qualified? Luong laughed and hugged the little girl's waist, praising her. It's a headache because you're so excellent. Congratulations. You passed the test. Received recognition. Flay happily hugged him and shouted. Thank you, young master, for the reward. So who do we need to kidnap in the end? Someone quickly say it. Luong whispered into the little girl's ear. The person you want to kidnap is someone you've never met before. But you must have heard of him. The successor to Fabro's throne. The Grand Prince Eddie. On the other hand. At Yadian, Zijin City. Grand Prince Eddie sat cross-legged on the chair and demanded loudly. What? Speak louder. I can't hear you clearly. Black Deacon bowed his head and begged respectfully. Please send troops. Rescue His Majesty Field. Eddie put his hand in his ear and pretended to be stupid. I heard it clearly this time. But why can't I understand? Nathan. Finally, is he asking for my help? Or is it my dear sister asking for my help? Nathan replied. It is Black Deacon asking for your help. There is no sign of His Highness Field. Not even a letter. Hearing that, the Crown Prince Eddie held his head and laughed sarcastically. This little sister of mine. Continuously lost and was beaten to a pulp. Has no ability but still likes to be arrogant. Doesn't know how to beg others. Sent a small servant. Opened her mouth and immediately demanded me to leave. Black Deacon heard him say that and loudly corrected, please don't misunderstand, His Majesty is not arrogant, my request now is because I am too worried about His Highness. I decided on my own. I feel he needs your help. Prince Eddie sneered. The pressure around him dropped. He said. Don't misunderstand. I also know she needs my help. I am honored. But if she wants my help, then ask her to come here and beg me personally. Understand? Black Deacon was filled with anger. But he still had to suppress it and reply. I understand. Thank you for your reminder. I will report to your Highness. The Crown Prince returned to his normal expression and said, don't be so polite. There's nothing else to do. Step back. When Black Deacon left, Nathan asked worriedly. Your Highness. You are like that. Is there any problem? Eddie smiled confidently and affirmed. What could be the problem? Now Field is begging us. She knows how to be flexible. After receiving news from Black Deacon, she will definitely come here like a dog without a master. That's right. The army has been reorganizing for the past few days. We're going to the battlefield soon anyway. Hearing that, Nathan sighed and said, His Highness still cares about His Highness Field. Eddie was hit in the heart and argued back. Care. Yadian will be my territory in the future. Shouldn't I care? At Zijin City. Deacon Hong stood below looking up at His Majesty Field and couldn't help but think to himself. For the past half-month, His Majesty has been receiving bad news from the front lines every day. There's that scary thing too. The killing power of that thing is called explosive bullets. His Majesty's mood is getting more and more irritable, his mental state is also much worse than before, I'm worried that he will do something stupid. But I don't dare to comfort him. I can only watch from downstairs. In case something happens to His Highness. At this moment, the carrier pigeon came again. Hong Deacon panicked. Oh my. News again. Bad news for sure. Her Majesty Field took the pigeon. She gently removed the letter from its leg and said, be good. Don't move. Holding the letter in her hand, she asked the bird again. Tell me. You brought me. Is it good news or bad news? If it is bad news. At this moment, His Majesty Field read the news attentively. Suddenly she burst out laughing, breaking the silence of the night. The pigeons flew away with her. The Hong Deacon below did not know what was going on. Seeing His Majesty smile like that, he was even more frightened than he thought. The news was so bad that His Majesty could not control himself. What should he do? His Majesty did not want to do something stupid, did he? Because he was so worried, Deacon Hong immediately ran to Field's room and knocked on the door repeatedly. Your Majesty. Your Majesty, don't do anything stupid. Your Majesty, please open the door. The door suddenly opened wide. His Majesty Field scowled and scolded. Are you crazy? You're not sleeping in the middle of the night. What are you making so much noise here? Deacon Hong didn't think much of it. He quickly rushed forward and pulled one side of Field's shirt and asked, Your Majesty. Are you okay? You don't want to cut your hand, do you? Seeing her reckless actions, Field quickly held her shirt back. She turned around, grabbed Deacon Hong by the collar and scolded. Cut off your hand. Explain to me. Or else go and take the punishment yourself. Deacon Hong was happy to see that she was so grown up. She still had the strength to be fierce with me. Then there was no problem. A moment later, after Deacon Hong told the whole truth, she ended the story. That was it. His Majesty Field lay on the bed. After hearing that, he frowned and questioned. You thought I received bad news. I would commit suicide. So I rushed here. I am in your heart. Am I that weak? Deacon Hong bowed his head and said, I'm not worried about your Majesty. Even if you punish me, I will do the same next time. Field sat up and said. She was right. Don't rely on me to please you. It would be blasphemy. And who said today was bad news? Deacon Hong didn't know what was going on, so he spoke. No way. No way. He couldn't even control himself. His Majesty Field smiled mysteriously and said. Not bad news. It's us. Figured out how to deal with Timothy and her secret weapon. On the other hand, at Yadian, Timothy's colony, she and everyone else sat around the conference table. Her expression was serious as she said, I summoned you all here because I received a very important piece of information. This news concerns our future. Since the start of our campaign, we have won 8 major battles in a row. We have reclaimed 3 major cities and 9 minor cities. Although there have been many difficulties, overall it has been considered favorable. But this time, that streak has been completely ended. The report said that the enemy had a large number of troops. In addition, the rear forces broke through the siege with elite troops. The siege of Motualan was a failure, with 1,534 cavalrymen lost. Everyone was shocked after hearing this. It was a failure. Although it was true that they had failed before, Motualan was not a small city. It was normal for it to be difficult to capture for a short time. Queen Timothy stood up and banged on the table, expressing that it was normal to not be able to conquer. But this defeat was because they used human wave tactics. Obviously, they discovered our weakness. Duke Willer suggested, Your Highness, we must immediately adjust our strategy. Nyodai nodded in agreement. We have discussed this issue before. We can make adjustments very quickly. Queen Timothy said, Yes. We have already taken measures to resolve this. Actually, what I am worried about is the people's hearts. She recalled and recounted that last time, after the great sweep against the remnants of the Black Iris and the Godhead, although several forces were basically eliminated, the subsequent propaganda work to consolidate them was not carried out because of difficulties on the front lines, and the people's hearts in the rear were already unstable. Now the fortress at the front line has changed flags many times in a short period of time. The Emperor, the priest, Field and I have begun to spread a saying on the street. The people's hearts are made of iron, and the king's heart is the flowing water. Under these circumstances, the failure to attack the city only increased the people's sense of distrust towards us, so this failure had a greater impact on us than we had imagined. Count Robin suggested that they spend some money to organize literacy classes so that people could see the true face of the Catholic Church. Duke Willer immediately pointed out the problem. There were wars everywhere now, so how could they have enough manpower and resources to open classes? Axe sighed and said, The people have not even finished eating yet, and have no mood to lecture. Nyo Dai forced a smile and said, I am not good at this area. Queen Timothy fell into deep thought. A battle that affected many aspects was indeed more complicated than she thought. But she couldn't give up. If it was His Majesty Lu Feng, what would he do? With his personality, he would definitely think more carefully. Finally, Timothy spoke up, Stop making noise, listen to my opinion, we still have to fight, we still have to eat, and the people's hearts must win. First, we must ensure the issue of warmth and food. It is now autumn, and winter is coming. I believe that everyone does not want the people to starve to death, so our first goal now is to organize according to the labor force on the existing land, the order of production and development, and ensure supplies and food to get through the winter. To give people food, clothes, and a place to live is also a way to enhance our reputation. As for the front line, we can also change our offensive policy at the same time. We can also gradually slow down the pace. There is no need to attack continuously like at the beginning. Lastly, although the literacy class cannot be opened, we can use other methods to guide it. For example, promote patriotism, so that people can find sympathy for our Yadian ethnic culture. This is roughly the direction we can think of now. If anyone has anything to add, or feels it is incorrect, please suggest. Duke Willer heard and was moved to tears, saying, I have nothing to say, Your Majesty has finally grown up. Queen Timothy shouted in shame, Please don't be like this. At night in Shannan City, Lu Feng's car was on the way back to the city lord's mansion. Ellie lamented, thinking that they could finish the negotiations quickly, but unexpectedly it was already this late. Lu Feng smiled and reminded them, it's better to be cautious first. Mina suddenly asked curiously, I heard from Flay, besides arranging the kidnapping mission for the girl, do you have any other plans? Lu Feng replied seriously, well, in addition to the Air Force, I'll let Nyo-san lead some more people to replace Nyo-dit and the others, helping most of the people return. They should probably arrive before winter. At that time we need to register the list of returning knights, safe, injured, dead, and distribute compensation and consolation money to them. Ellie yawned and tearfully advised, young master, don't think too much. Deaths on the battlefield are inevitable. We've tried our best to reduce them. She suddenly looked up at the building in front of her and exclaimed, young master, look, it's so late, the security headquarters is still lit up. Lu Feng explained, the security headquarters has people on duty 24 hours a day. Of course the lights are on, don't stick your head out, it's very dangerous. Ellie obediently replied, okay, I wonder if Dees is on duty? Maybe. The car passed through the alley, but no one noticed two masked beastmen sneaking around in the corner. They were almost discovered and scared to death. The shaggy-haired beastman frowned and wondered, no, big brother, why do we have to hide? The beastman angrily grabbed the collar of his underling and scolded, we're dressed like this. Why do you think we have to hide? That kind of car was made by the government, and there must be a big shot sitting there. If we're discovered, we're in trouble. Hearing him say that, the junior finally realized the problem and said, big brother is right, let's go in quickly. The two men quickly walked towards the door. The boss asked, are you ready? We must rush straight to the enemy base at the fastest speed to complete the mission. The junior looked around carefully and concluded, we're ready. Dee stood in a hidden corner, watching the two sneaking around and frowned, thinking, the two masked men dressed in bandit clothes had been sneaking around outside the police station for more than an hour. What did they want to do in the end? Detective, assassin, or here to die? Thinking, she suddenly came over and grabbed the shirts of the two masked men. He threw them to the ground and shouted, what are you doing sneaking around in my territory? The two men who were beaten screamed in pain. Dees held the baseball bat, stabbed it straight into the ground beside the threatening boss, answer clearly, or else. Kill the two of them. In the eyes of the two of them, the image of Dees like a demon appeared. Both of them were scared and trembling, hurriedly begging. Spare us, I have no other intention. We just want to join the police department. A moment later, after learning the truth, Dees let the two of them inside. She placed the cup of tea in front of them, smiling and asking. Oh, what you mean is? You two were originally Torola's knights and wanted to join us, but you were afraid of revealing your identities, so you did it secretly. Do you think I'll believe you? Both of them were trembling. One of them flusteredly explained, this is our identity token, it can prove our identity. The token was presented, the other person said, yes, listen to our explanation. This afternoon, His Highness the First Prince and His Highness the Second Prince suddenly gathered us together and said we no longer needed to repair the road, and that we could soon return to our country. Time went back a few hours, Prince Knight in front of the crowd smiled and announced, telling you all good news, in 3 days, we can set off back to Torola. The crowd heard this and excitedly discussed, finally we can go back, I miss my parents so much. This time I also earned quite a bit, I can buy some gifts for my family. The two masked people in the crowd looked at each other worriedly and asked, can we go home so soon? I feel that living here is very comfortable, I feel the same, the work is not tiring, I also earn a lot. Back to reality, the curly-haired man continued, then we met the team leader passing by, thinking that if she joined the security department, she wouldn't need to return, so she secretly came here. Dees seriously picked up the cup of tea and questioned, it seems you guys know that doing this is dangerous, why are you still disguising yourself? The boss awkwardly explained, well, we're mainly afraid of bringing trouble to both sides, but if you personally tell the prince to request someone, he'll definitely agree. Dees's face darkened as he said, if I remember correctly, we knights have all registered our nationality here. Our security department requires people. Don't you think, if the two princes want to label you as traitors, you can die without any problem? What about your family and the relationship between the two countries? Hearing her say that, the other two realized the problem, regretted and admitted their mistakes, it was our fault for not thinking carefully, we will not follow the evil path anymore, and will return home with peace of mind. After finishing, Dees went to report everything to Lu Feng, then I sent them off, then came here to report to the young master. I guess the Torola Knights have this in mind quite a bit, if they are all here, it will definitely affect the relationship between our two countries. Lu Feng heard the story and asked in surprise, is there such a thing, really accepting them is not impossible. Dees heard that and widened her eyes and hesitantly said, but if the two princes knew. Lu Feng smiled mysteriously and said, it's true that Han Dynasty's treatment is better than theirs. Besides, even if they knew, what could they do to us? Looking at his face right now, Dees couldn't help but feel a little scared, thinking, the young master now, really looks like a villain. The next morning, Ellie couldn't help but laugh when she heard about this. The young master was right. Knight and Nemo, the two princes like our wine so much. When they found out that the local knight wanted to stay, they might even beg for more and exchange wine with us. Luong pointed and said, "Oh, then we have to soak more wine." Ellie asked in panic, "Young master, no way, I was just joking." Dees was also surprised and wondered, "Young master, are you serious?" Luong laughed loudly. He waved his hand to explain, "Just joking with everyone." However, those fighters had basic training. If they could solve the problem of identity and nationality, and pass the security agency's test at the same time, they would be considered usable talent. As for the opinions of other countries, it was because they couldn't keep people. We need not fear, our Han Dynasty is forever open and tolerant. Dees heard that and also showed that he understood the problem. Nina spoke up to express her doubts. These people were originally soldiers. If we set a precedent to accept them, compared to the guards maintaining the security of the inner city, they would want to join the army even more. When the time comes, should we also let them in? Ellie said, "I feel it is possible. The last 2 times we sent a lot of people to Yadian to rescue, we can just in time to add more manpower." After hearing that, Dees suddenly slammed his hand on the table in protest. "No. What if they eat our rice and smash our pots, and follow the enemy on the battlefield? It's too dangerous." The atmosphere seemed tense. Luong spoke up to calm them down. If they could be recruited, they must have passed the assessment, absolutely guaranteeing that the other party would have no problems. Dees firmly defended his opinion and said, "Young master, I still think it's too risky. Your reputation is so high, one wave of the hand can attract thousands of people. Why bother recruiting these people?" Then she put her hand on her chest and imitated his gesture and shouted, "The country needs you, please everyone enthusiastically join the army." Luong saw this and replied with a wry smile, "Not necessarily, the life of the Han Dynasty is getting better and better, everyone is settling down and working, the enthusiasm for joining the army will decrease, once the army is recruited, still don't know what the situation will be." Nina and Ellie looked at Dees's behavior and happily praised him. They also looked like young masters. They didn't realize before that Dees had this talent. Dees was a little embarrassed and immediately put away her original appearance. She sighed and said, "All right, at most, it will be an appraisal. I will ask the security department to send someone to investigate more seriously." Luong instructed, "I will trouble you when the time comes." Dees guarantees that, "Young master, don't worry, just leave it to me." After finishing, she chatted with Mina. "Mina, would you like to try it?" No. On the opposite side, Ellie and Luong discussed important matters. Ellie suggested, "Young master, I have recorded some important things you just said, take a look." Luong looked through it and said, Not bad, but before recruiting soldiers, we can do other things." Ellie wondered, "Other things?" Luong stood up, stretched his shoulders and said, "First, organizing a series of events like the sports festival, besides wanting to attract economic resources and raise morale, more importantly, it wanted to strengthen people's sense of belonging to the Han Dynasty. Later on, they would be attracted to migrate to the Han Dynasty more and more. We need to pay attention to work in this aspect, unite all can unite strength, consolidate and widely develop patriotism, unify the front." Hearing that, Ellie and Dees muttered what he said, uniting everyone can unite strength, develop patriotism, and unify the battle lines. Mina happily exclaimed, "As expected of a young master, every word he says is very profound and philosophical, able to touch people's souls." Dees said while eating, "Young master, rest assured, our Han Dynasty is so good, the foreigners who come guarantee immediate submission, and they dare to do strange things. I will make their lives worse than death." Dees laughed coldly. The look on the plate of cake was like that of a bad person. Mina turned her face to remind Dees. The police department's job is to protect the public, not the mafia. Dees blushed and cried out when Mina pressed her hand on her. She stopped. Mina smiled and asked, "Are you going to talk nonsense again?" Dees immediately replied, "I don't dare anymore." Ellie saw this scene and said bluntly, "It's so gay." Luong secretly had a nosebleed and praised, "So sexy." Mina suddenly turned to him and asked, "Young master, regarding this aspect, do you have any good solutions?" Luong felt guilty and quickly took out a handkerchief to wipe his nose and replied, "In this aspect, my skills are similar to GL's." Mina was surprised, "GL, didn't you just talk about enhancing the sense of belonging?" Luong coughed twice and said, "You mean this?" Mina questioned, "What is GL?" He guiltily explained, "Pulling goods is a form of transportation in our hometown." Having said that, he immediately changed the subject. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, people carry out activities such as gazing at the moon, worshipping the moon, eating mooncakes, and playing with lanterns to express their longing for loved ones, pray for luck, and celebrate a bountiful harvest. We can also base on that way of life to create a traditional holiday, to encourage people to accept the culture of the Han Dynasty. After listening, Ellie expressed that this method was very good. As long as people had a sense of acceptance towards the culture, they would invisibly regard themselves as an indispensable part of the group. And the more rich elements a culture had, the stronger the sense of acceptance. In this atmosphere and environment, it was very difficult not to be loyal. Mina said, I thought before that there was a celebration after the harvest, although it was not to worship the bright moon, but it was very similar to what the young master meant. Dees also added, I remember other countries also have it. This is also considered a tradition of the mainland, but because the harvest time is different, the celebration time is different. Luong smiled and said, the unified time is not a problem, the time to celebrate the new year does not affect farming, nor does it go against local customs. I need you to send people to inquire and understand the traditions and customs of each place, which will make it easier for us to officially establish holidays. But you must remember, the principle of setting holidays is mutual respect and tolerance. Even if the official celebration day is established, it does not mean that the holiday cannot be celebrated. We do not need to force it. The three people happily agreed upon hearing this. Ellie made a cute face and approached Lu Feng's table and asked, Young master, what are you looking for? Or are you thinking of something again? He replied, I'm looking for a pen. Other holidays are not easy to decide. But National Day is fixed. Mina's hand reached for the pen and said. Here, Lu Feng picked it up, thought about it, and then decided, let's take 7 days off for National Day. As he spoke, he circled it in red with a pen. Ellie's eyes lit up in admiration. 7 days off, if this good news were to be announced, it would definitely cause a stir for a while. Dees asked hopefully, can we have that much time off during the Mid-Autumn Festival? And the young master just said we would eat mooncakes, so we can eat them again. Unfortunately, Jill came back too early. Nicole asked her to make mooncakes, she must have loved them. Mina saw that she looked sad and comforted her. After the Mid-Autumn Festival, winter would soon come, and sailing on the sea in winter was very dangerous. Even so, Dees also excitedly expressed, that's right, she can eat next year. Ellie was a little curious, speaking of which, has Jill been to Larson yet? Lu Feng replied, judging by the speed of the boat, they should have arrived at Larson's royal capital by now. On the other hand, Princess Jill was currently sitting in the carriage returning to the palace, but the road did not seem smooth. She was pale and sighed, how could the emperor repair the road like this? Lester, who was sitting in the other carriage, couldn't stand it any longer and stuck his head out complaining, oh, I'm dying, I want to get off and walk. Jill saw this and comforted him. Uncle Lester, we've been sitting here for 2 hours from the port, bear with it a little longer, we're almost at the palace. As soon as she finished speaking, the car she was in hit a bad patch of road, causing the car to jolt for a while. Jill was startled and cried out, ouch. Lester on the other side asked worriedly, Your Highness, are you okay? Don't get hurt, otherwise I won't be able to hand it over to His Majesty and the Queen. Jill waved her hand to signal, it's okay, Uncle Lester, you also pay attention to safety. With that, Lester's car also bounced, throwing Lester out of the car. In the air, Uncle Lester's face showed no regrets. He shrugged and said, oh no. Immediately after, the scene of Lester hitting the ground, crying in pain. The people around saw this and immediately shouted worriedly, Sir Lester, where are you? Sir, are you okay? Jill also hurriedly ran over and called out, Uncle Lester. The guard beside Princess Jill suggested, Sir, we will help you up. Lester immediately raised his hand to signal him to stop. Don't touch me. Quickly go find the doctor and follow the group. Jill asked worriedly, Uncle Lester, why didn't you let your entourage help you go to the hospital? Lester explained that when he participated in the Han Dynasty volunteer activity before, their medical staff said that if he fell and hurt his neck, he was absolutely not allowed to move until the medic arrived. I guess your neck is stiff, you should go back first, His Majesty and the Queen have been waiting for us for a long time. Jill replied, how can that be? At this time, the doctor also arrived, and Lord Lester was also carried on a stretcher. The doctor said, Sir, you just have a slight sprain, it's not a big deal, don't worry. Lester immediately urged Princess Jill, listen, I'm fine, don't go to the clinic with me anymore, go back and see your father and mother first. Jill had no choice but to listen. Uncle Lester was taken away. After walking a short distance, he cried out, oh, it hurts. Be careful. Jill looked after him and thought to herself, I thought I could happily return home. How did it turn out like this? At Larson Palace, Princess Jill's voice rang out, Father, Mother, I'm back. Jill rushed forward and hugged the two of them. The Queen happily said, it's good that you've returned safely. King Lauren hugged his daughter and said, if you still refuse to return, your mother will chase me out for questioning. The Queen glanced at him reproachfully. What king would let his daughter cross the ocean as an envoy to a foreign country, going alone to a foreign country to negotiate cooperation? Do you think I should kick her out of the palace? King Lauren could only smile wryly when he heard this. Jill immediately comforted her, Mother, don't be angry with Father anymore. I didn't suffer much on this mission, but I also gained a lot and matured a lot. Look, isn't he taller than before and has much more spirit? King Lauren nodded in approval, he really grew taller and had more spirit, not bad. The Queen retorted, you still think it's true, the child is afraid that we will worry, she is comforting us. Jill waved her hands and explained, not comforting the two of them. Han Dynasty doesn't care about the city's planning or security, it's much better than ours. They take good care of you, you'll be very comfortable there. If you don't believe me, you can ask Uncle Lester. Speaking of which, King Lauren immediately asked, by the way, didn't Lester come back with you, where is he? Jill awkwardly recounted, the roads in the royal capital were too bad, the carriage was too bumpy, Uncle Lester accidentally fell off the carriage, and was sent to the medical clinic, but don't worry, the fake doctor who came with you said he was fine. The queen heard that she had the opportunity to criticize her husband. I and the ministers have advised you many times not to repair the roads, you should decide on your own. For 10 months now, the people have been complaining, and now you have even caused Lester to fall. The king explained, I did not want to improve the living conditions of the people. Who would have known that after the repairs, it would turn out like this? Jill looked at the two of them and thought to herself, who would have thought that in front of outsiders, the emperor and empress would be majestic and imposing, while the other would be noble and graceful, but behind the scenes, like the other civilians, they would sometimes quarrel. The queen left angrily, she went to her daughter and said, we don't need to pay attention to him, you must be tired from the whole journey, you should sit down and rest first. Mother will now go prepare water and food. King Lauren on the side couldn't help but feel resentful, if you don't care then don't care. The queen cleared her throat and spoke sarcastically, without any tact. Jill was already so tired, and didn't even know to call someone to bring food in. The king pointed at himself in confusion and asked, I'm taking care of my daughter first, isn't that okay? At this time, the queen left to prepare food for her daughter. Jill asked, Father, what is the other research that the queen mother mentioned? Her father sighed and explained, I ordered the craftsmen to imitate the Han Dynasty in repairing roads and researching the food and fabrics of the Han Dynasty. Who knew those craftsmen would have no effect at all? The road is not good, the research is not successful, so now, the crab mother has a lot of opinions about me. Jill happily said after hearing that, that's great. This trip, in addition to promoting cooperation between the two countries, will also bring back a group of workers from the Han Dynasty. Each of them has their own abilities and can help people. Hearing that, the king seemed to see a glimmer of hope and said, why didn't you tell me earlier, where are they? Jill replied innocently, it was Uncle Lester who arranged it, I don't know either. King Lauren immediately rushed out like a gust of wind and ordered, I'll go see if Lester is seriously injured. Jill, tell your mother on my behalf. Jill's eyes widened when she heard that. She didn't care about Uncle Lester's injuries at all, but wanted to get to know those beastmen. The queen's voice then came out and asked, Jill, do you want to bathe and change your clothes first, or do you want to eat with us first? Jill replied loudly, eat first. That's right, father went to visit Uncle Lester, he's becoming more and more like the old man from Torola, doing whatever he thinks. Go, we don't care about him anymore. At this time, King Lauren was at Lester's place. He asked seriously, Lester, I heard you fell, are you okay? Lester was lying on the bed. When he saw the king, he immediately sat up to greet him. Your Majesty personally came to visit me? I'm fine. It's just a minor injury. King Lauren saw this and stopped him, saying, don't sit up, you're a sick person, just lie down. It was all because the road was poorly maintained that you got hurt. Lester replied, no, it was my fault for not paying attention. At this moment, he couldn't help but think, why is His Majesty suddenly so concerned about me? Isn't it because I caused the Emperor a great deal of trouble before, and His Majesty wants to punish me? King Lauren interrupted his thoughts and said, I heard from Jill that they invited workers back to the country, and you were in charge of arranging them. Where are they now? Do any of them know that I'm repairing the road? Only then did Lester breathe a sigh of relief. It turned out that His Majesty wanted to ask him about this matter. He pulled the blanket and prepared to get out of bed to express, they are temporarily arranged by me to stay at the inn. If you want to meet them, I will immediately show you the way. King Lauren waved his hand and said, no need, you're injured. Do you have a list? Show me the list first, Lester replied, yes, I'll have someone bring it up right away. Your Majesty, in addition to the list, I'll also have someone bring some more food. Otherwise, we can eat and read it. A moment later, the requested food was served. King Lauren looked on happily and exclaimed, there's also my favorite canned beef with wine. Lester, you're very sensible. Lester smiled and replied, isn't this to make your Majesty happy? As long as you like it, we have recruited 16 workers. The princess and I specially selected workers who are not the same, but have connections. Your Majesty, what do you think? The king poured wine into glasses and commented, the two people's thoughts on choosing people were not bad, they were people with connections, but had different technical abilities, they could work together to promote the development of a project, but they both chose engineers to do the basic work. Why was that? Lester proudly explained, it was actually the princess's decision. The princess said, our country now needs to build some basic constructions. If we do this well, the rest will be easier. The princess is indeed worthy of being your noble bloodline's child. She is just like you in government affairs. She has great talent. She will definitely have great achievements in the future. King Lauren happily raised his glass and replied, "No, the girl is still young and stubborn, this time she was just lucky, she doesn't have any talent. They should be able to get to work very quickly, especially the road repairmen, let them get to work quickly." Lester obeyed and replied, "Yes, I will try to arrange it." The king continued reading the list. When he got to the salary part, he was so shocked that he screamed, their salary could be as high as 5 silver coins. Do you know, in Larson, an ordinary family's annual income is only about 20 silver coins. What are you still standing there for? Quickly send these people back, such a high salary, invited only to repair the iron forge. Is there something wrong with your brains? Lester saw His Majesty getting agitated and quickly waved his hand to explain. Your Majesty, you are listening to my excuses. No, listen to me. Han Dynasty's conditions are much better than ours in every aspect. These workers originally did not agree to leave their hometowns to come to Larson. We had to spend a lot of effort and pay high wages to invite them here. However, we cannot look at them with the eyes of ordinary workers. These people have very good skills and can help us train workers. Your Majesty, please look ahead. We are not at a loss. Most importantly, Torola is also recruiting people. Your Majesty, if we return, we will be surpassed by Torola. King Lauren asked with a serious expression, is Torola recruiting people at the same price as us? Lester replied, yes. The prices are all set by His Majesty Luong. But rest assured, the number of recruits is less than ours, we will not lose to Torola. His Majesty Lauren then calmed down and said, what is losing or not losing, I don't bother comparing with them. Lester smiled wryly and replied, Your Majesty is right. King Lauren continued reading the list. Once again, his face turned pale and he exclaimed, what, there are florists here, and why are their wages higher than others? Can florists make food? What are you planning to do? Sir Lester said hurriedly again, Your Majesty, please listen to my explanation first. The next morning, in Larson Palace, in Princess Jill's bedroom, sunlight poured in from outside. At this moment, someone came in and whispered, "Shush, be quick." Princess Jill heard the voice and woke up, her voice still sleepy as she said, too noisy, I told you not to bother me. The people who entered the room saw her awake and called out to each other, wake up, where are you, come up. Jill then opened her eyes wide. Thinking a stranger had entered the room, she immediately sat up and screamed loudly, but was also so scared that she kept backing away until she fell to the ground. The maid saw this and worriedly asked, Your Highness fell off the bed. Quickly help Your Highness up. What are you still standing there for? Your Highness, are you okay? A moment later, Princess Jill sat down at the dining table. She questioned her father and mother. The two of them sneaked in while I was sleeping, watched over me, wanted me to enjoy some kind of service called bathing, dressing, eating, etc. The queen forced a smile and explained, you being an envoy to a foreign country is inherently dangerous, but even so, you still remember us. My son is so filial. I feel very comforted. Your father suggested that, but I didn't expect it to make you fall off the bed. King Lauren scratched his head and admitted, it was all my silly idea. Jill heard that and helplessly replied, it's okay, although it's a bit difficult, I can still enjoy it. That's right, father, did Uncle Lester tell you about His Majesty Lu Feng's business cooperation plan and conditions yesterday? What do you think? King Lauren sighed and said. That's what they said, but they want us to use ores, gems, and send workers for them. Workers are easy to talk about, but we don't have any gems or minerals at all, and it's also troublesome to find them. Princess Jill immediately went over and pulled his hand, suggesting, Father, Larson has more than 40 castles, and more than half of the cities are based on mountains. We certainly have a lot of mineral and gem resources. Don't be lazy and don't do it, the queen also agreed and advised. Jill is right, there are those things. When the time comes, buying things from Han Dynasty can save a lot of money. Her father heard and could only agree. Okay, I will immediately send someone to look for them. Jill now happily massaged her father's shoulders and flattered him. Father is so good. Father is so handsome. And wise too. In the whole world. Who can compare to you? King Lauren heard and was helpless with her saying. His mouth was full of honey. Don't praise me anymore. Tell us about the things you have seen in the past. The queen thought to herself, my child is outstanding in appearance. Excellent in character. Not bad in ability. Good in background. Truly worthy of being the child I raised with all my heart. Princess Jill recounted this. How do you say this? In short, eat well, rest well. Life is very happy. This is not just for you. There are also the people of the Han Dynasty. You don't know. His Majesty Luong is both a scholar and a martial artist. He is also a leader in inventions. He is very considerate of the people. The queen was surprised to hear her daughter say that. Why did Jill worship this majesty so much? Just a few short months. Jill had already been captivated by him. Princess Jill continued to praise Lu Feng. And he respects women very much. If he were to recruit him as a son-in-law, he would definitely not be at a loss. She thought to herself. Although Jenny and His Majesty Lu Feng have not yet succeeded, they can still influence the king's psychology. I am really too knowledgeable. Jill thought confidently. But she didn't know that her mother had other thoughts. She frowned in wonder. What was Jill thinking? Lu Feng. I definitely won't forgive him. At this time. In Shannan City, at the farm outside the city. Shirley smiled and said. Today, there was not enough manpower, but fortunately the weather was cool. Everyone's hands and feet were more agile. They tried to complete the morning harvest plan before 10 o'clock. But they also had to pay attention to safety. The new sickle was very sharp, so be careful not to cut your hand. Hearing that, the farmers smiled and replied. Yes, Sir Shirley. Shirley looked at the fields dyed yellow with rice. She thought to herself. After the stormy days. We have improved a lot. We have reclaimed a lot of land. This year we will have a big harvest. We don't need to worry about not having food in the winter. Suddenly the farmer spoke loudly. Sir Shirley, didn't you say you needed to come and see the practical use of the new farming tools? Come here quickly. Hearing that, Shirley happily replied. Come right away. The farmer said while cutting rice with a sickle. Look, sir. The new farming tool is very sharp and easy to use. It is much easier to use than the previous tools. Seeing this, Shirley looked surprised and exclaimed. It was indeed very good. But you are always bowing like that. Are you tired? As soon as he finished speaking, the farmer immediately smiled and replied. To be able to harvest so much food. Not tired at all. The farmers behind also quickly added. That's right. It was even more tiring before. But the output was far less. After paying the tax, there was still a little bit left that wasn't enough to eat. Now it's good. Just hand over 20% of the amount as rent. The rest can not only be eaten. It can also be sold. Your Majesty is truly a good person. In the past. Yadian and other countries. No one like our Majesty reduced taxes so much. What is a good person? Let me say. His Majesty is the reincarnation of a god. Hearing these words. Shirley said with a solemn expression. You guys stop talking nonsense. His Majesty said. We need to talk about science. Don't be superstitious. Don't drag in all those gods and ghosts. As soon as they finished speaking, they replied. Sir Shirley. You are right. Don't talk nonsense in the future. I just want to express my respect to His Majesty. And His Majesty in my eyes. Is truly like a god. Hearing that, Shirley raised her hand and waved it a few times before saying. All right. All right. Stop talking. Let's get to work. Suddenly the weather began to turn bad. Dark clouds gathered. Seeing this, someone shouted loudly. Lord Shirley. Shirley looked up at the sky and then exhaled. Aren't you in charge of planning another agricultural area? Why did you come here? Hearing that, the other guy's face tensed up and he replied. My lord. Quickly look at the western sky. The guy said it before. The air moving from west to east brings moisture. Is it going to rain? Seeing this, Shirley quickly said with a panicked expression. That's right. I was busy all morning. I didn't pay attention to the change in the weather. You quickly go and arrange for people to quickly harvest. How much can be harvested? Hearing that, the man quickly continued. My lord. The number of people on my side is just enough. There is no extra. Hearing this, Shirley thought to herself. Why is there such a shortage of workers? After thinking about it, Shirley quickly gave an order. If we want to harvest quickly, we really can't rely on ourselves. But we can call for reinforcements. Don't worry. I'll go call for reinforcements immediately. That's right. The farm and labor statistics are on the car, right? As soon as he finished speaking, the other guy quickly replied, yes. Hearing that, Shirley continued, okay, I'll take the car to the administrative building. At this time, in the high-rise administrative building. Shirley held the statistics table and gave it to Lu Feng to review. After some thought, Lu Feng quickly said, no problem. The mobilization of additional workers. I have approved it. Ellie. Send someone to post a notice. Tell the Ministry of Agriculture to recruit additional workers. Anyone interested? Salary will be based on market price. In addition, in case the recruitment of workers is too slow, immediately notify the military. Any team that does not have a mission today will go help. Hearing that, Ellie quickly replied. I'll go right away. After that, Luong turned around and continued. So much grain has been harvested. Transporting it all to the grain drying yard is tiring enough. I remember the newly built farm is right next to the farm. The poultry have not moved in yet. I am giving you a special approval. You can temporarily move the grain here. Hearing that, Shirley asked curiously. Young master, I still have one more thing to tell you. Can someone else handle this for now? As soon as he finished speaking, Luong replied. All right. Mina. I'll leave it to you. Hearing that, Mina winked and replied. Don't worry. I guarantee to complete the mission. Finished. Luong smiled and said. The quick harvest is basically done. Don't be impatient. Hearing that, Shirley's eyes were filled with sorrow. She said, it's like this. After the stormy days. In order to meet the winter demand of Chang'an City. Didn't we expand the planting area? At that time. The plan was very good. The statistics were also sufficient. But I discovered on the way here. At that time, because of the wasteland. The land was reclaimed too quickly. Now there is an area of farmland that exceeds our current capacity to protect and support our husbands. Hearing this, Luong stroked his chin and thought for a moment before saying, this is indeed a big problem. Harvesting the autumn harvest and recruiting people and troops can help now. But maintaining the winter protection of the farmlands requires more manpower and time. Otherwise, the land will be left to waste. Hearing this, Shirley thought to herself. Even the young master doesn't change when things go wrong. Her expression changed. I really did cause trouble. After thinking about it, Shirley continued. This matter was because of my negligence that such a big hole appeared. I can't think of a good way right now. Please help me, young master. Wait until the matter is resolved. I will submit my resignation. Hearing that, Luong quickly asked. Do you really think so? As soon as he finished speaking, Shirley replied. Yes. Confirming the answer, Luong helplessly replied. Okay. Hearing that, Shirley bowed and said, thank you, young master. I will definitely do a good job during this last period of time. Suddenly, Luong interrupted. He said. Who told you to resign? Hearing that, Shirley suddenly startled and stared blankly at Luong. Luong then smiled and continued. You were indeed a bit rash this time. But you can just make up for your mistakes with merit. There is no need to resign. After all, our population is still increasing. The demand for food will also increase. Expanding the cultivated area is a natural trend. Your method can be considered to be coincidentally on target. As for her concerns, using manure can solve it. Recruit people in the world who agree to farm. Divide the fields for them to cultivate. They just need to be like other farmers. After harvesting, pay the remaining 20% of the land rent. Would that solve the problem? Hearing that. At this moment, Shirley thought to herself. As expected of a young master, he already thought of a solution in such a short time. Then Shirley said. Young master. Your solution is really great. But our cultivated area is nationwide. When the production is too much, it will not be consumed. Won't it cause food waste? Hearing that, Luong turned his head to look and replied. This is easy to handle. Go invite Nicole here. Conveniently bring the tea set that was just delivered today. Hearing that, the maidservant standing by quickly replied. Yes. In no time. The tea table was ready. Nicole is attentively making tea meticulously. Seeing that, Shirley was surprised and said. So drinking tea requires so much attention? I usually use a plum cup to hold it. Just steep it and drink it. Hearing that, Nicole laughed and replied, yes, first use warm water to quickly wash the tea. Then steep the tea. This will make the flavor of the tea leaves even better. Look at the cup of tea that Nicole has prepared. Shirley's eyes lit up. She looked at him with admiration and admiration. This is a starflower. It's blooming in the water. After getting closer, she could smell the light fragrance of tea and flowers. This was the first time she had seen this kind of tea. Nicole explained further. This is the flower tea that the young master researched. Don't get too close. Be careful not to burn yourself. Hearing that, Shirley replied. Okay. Then, Shirley turned to look at Lu Feng and asked. But young master, what does tea and dealing with the surplus of food have to do with me redeeming myself? Hearing that, Lu Feng replied. It's very simple. Worrying about the surplus of food. We can stop growing food. It is not that people want to increase the production of tea leaves. But the people from the countryside brought only 10 tea trees. They are very valuable. Therefore, tea leaves are normally only provided to the administrative office and diplomatic guests. Isn't it very difficult to grow tea trees? If we let ignorant people grow tea trees, isn't it too reluctant? Hearing that, Lu Feng continued laughing. I want them to plant not tea trees, but these flowers. You try drinking first. Shirley picked up her cup of tea and drank it. In her mind, she was thinking, can this really solve the problem? On this side, Nicole said with a worried expression. Be careful not to get burned. Shirley took a sip. She closed her eyes and savored the taste. She said, the scent of roses mixed with the pure scent of black tea. Slightly sweet with a hint of astringency. It made the drinker feel immersed in a sea of roses and black tea. It was truly the best of all teas. Young master, how could anyone think of such a flower tea? It was too amazing. This was the best tea I had ever tasted. Hearing that, Nicole smiled and said. After the stormy days, the flower garden had fallen a lot of flowers. The florist originally planned to throw them away. The young master immediately asked someone to collect them and process them. They made them into flower tea like they are now. Hearing this, Shirley looked at Lu Feng with admiration and said, young master, don't you want farmers to grow flowers and use them to make flower tea? This idea is too good. I think even without tea leaves, as long as it's roses, it will be very welcome. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Feng began his speech. That's right, there are many varieties of camellia flowers, and they are easy to grow. Their economic value is very high, and they can bring farmers more income. They can also increase the variety of our country's products. This is a good thing for the country and the people. Hearing this, Shirley happily turned around. Then, she said, that's great, I'll arrange for everyone to plant it right away. Seeing this, Lu Feng quickly grabbed her shoulder and said, wait a minute. Growing flowers is not like growing food, it requires money and effort, including taking huge risks later. You are so hasty. Have you thought about the consequences of future handling? For example, what if the flowers die? How many households need to grow them, and how will they be sold? Sounds reasonable, Shirley quickly said, sorry young master, I was too hasty. I didn't think of these things. Seeing this, Lu Feng tried to comfort her, saying, I didn't mean to blame you. This is the chance to make amends that I'm giving you. Give her 5 days, based on the current land and labor situation. Make a part of the agricultural production and consumption planning table, solve the wasteland, lead the farming households, and get rich together. Hearing this, Shirley replied with determination, young master, I will definitely try my best. Don't worry, I will pay attention to the autumn harvest while writing a plan. After saying that, Shirley immediately left. Seeing this, Lu Feng laughed and said, you are really energetic. Hearing this, Nicole continued, yes. 5 days passed in a flash, at the administrative court. Shirley happily walked in with a document in her hand and Ellie. Seeing this, Ellie was curious and asked, Shirley, why are you here so early today? Hearing this, Shirley smiled and replied, today I have to report to the young master about my economic crop planting plan. I came a little early, to have time to improve or redo. That's right, why are you alone, where is the young master? Ellie continued, the young master came earlier than me, Mina and the others went to work safely today. The young master must be up there, what's wrong? Not confident in your plan, and you even left extra time to improve. Hearing that, Shirley quickly explained, it wasn't that she didn't have confidence, but that she was nervous. Look at the dark circles under my eyes, I was worried that something would go wrong when I reported, so I practiced my presentation last night, struggling all night. Hearing that, Ellie laughed out loud, knowing her tension. Hearing that, Shirley continued, speaking of which, I still have to thank you. The next day you sent me some flower teas, which helped me a lot. That's how I got the inspiration. So I decided to personally go to the flower garden to survey it, and that's how I was able to write this report. Hearing that, Ellie smiled and replied, it's not me, I was just asked to do it. After saying that, Ellie opened the door and said loudly, young master, Shirley has come to report, I have to go, bye-bye. Seeing that, Shirley replied, okay. Shirley then walked over to Lu Feng. She then handed him the document and said, young master, this is the flower production and marketing plan. It was revised after I surveyed the flower gardens and the market. The plan is a bit long, so I will explain it to you. Looking at the document, Lu Feng thought to himself. It's really thick, it seems like you came prepared. Then, Lu Feng replied. Okay, go ahead. Shirley began to explain the plan. She said, this project is still unprecedented, but I believe that no matter which way this flower tea goes, the young master can make it as economically beneficial as possible, so there are many benefits to growing it. I won't add any more unnecessary points. First, because there are many types of flower tea, explaining each type will have many overlapping contents. It would also be a waste of people's time, so I chose a representative type, roses, as an example to describe the plan. Hearing this, Lu Feng thought to himself, not bad. Shirley's previous agricultural report was complete, but dry. Now, even her language was more appropriate. It seemed that besides working on the farm every day, she also put in a lot of effort in writing. Shirley continued. Then, I told the audience the specific direction. I will talk about the adventure of growing and consuming roses. Many more difficult problems and problems that may be encountered. Analyze how to lead and help tea flower farmers, pull the flower production industry to develop and grow. Shirley looked at Lu Feng's face. She looked frightened and thought to herself. I just started, why is the young master showing such an expression? Could it be that I'm going in the wrong direction? Then, Shirley continued tremblingly. From my investigation in the flower garden, planting roses on a large scale is very practical. First, there will be 3 problems. First, the cultivation technique is demanding. Second, it takes a long time. Then, there is the problem of consumption. How to sell. At this moment, Shirley's heart was pounding. She reassured herself. Calm down. Calm down. The young master did not interrupt her. Having said it, she could continue. Shirley continued. The rose. It was not easy to sell. Nor was it. It would definitely be very popular. But. Speaking of this, Shirley was so scared that she was trembling. In her mind, she was thinking, what am I going to say? Oh no, my mind is in chaos now. What should I do? The young master will doubt my ability. Shirley continued, clutching her skirt. Seeing this, Lu Feng said. Is this a single-minded marketing approach? Hearing that, Shirley forced a smile and continued. That's right. Single-direction sales. How did you know I was going to say this? As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Feng smiled and continued. How I know is not important. Don't be nervous and relax. If you forget, you can open the document. Hearing that, Shirley looked embarrassed and said, no need. Next is the countermeasure. Shirley thought to herself, the young master seems much friendlier now. Completely different from the seriousness at the beginning. He must have seen that I was too tense. He did it on purpose to let me relax. Even such a small detail is noticed. The young master is too warm. After thinking, Shirley continued to explain in a low voice. So based on the above points, I have 2 ideas. We should train the husband's techniques together. Nurture the seedlings together. Purchase together. And before the flower fields form a scale. Form a scale. Seeing Shirley so nervous, Lu Feng thought to himself. This girl. Her face is all red, but she's still trying to explain. Forget it. Remind her of a few stories. After that, Lu Feng sighed and said. She wants the government to support them, right? Hearing this, Shirley looked surprised and asked. Young master. How did you know? As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Feng said. Next. She also wanted to create a brand effect. Hearing this, Shirley looked surprised. She shouted loudly. Young master. How did you know? That's not right. He was the one who asked Deli to bring the flower tea. He had already arranged it. That's right. What I want to do is the government. Factories. Farmers, combine into one. Unify the development of the industrial chain. Report it all. Lu Feng handed Shirley a cup of tea and said. Very good. It coincides with my thoughts. Hearing that, Shirley happily replied. I have a question. Since when did you have a plan for growing economic crops? Lu Feng laughed and replied. When he said he wanted to reclaim land, he already had a plan. After he finished speaking, Shirley asked in surprise. So soon? He really has a plan. At this moment, Shirley thought to herself. I thought I was almost there. But the result was still far from it. On this side, Lu Feng calmly took a sip of tea and said. You have done very well. From now on, all the farmers in Chang'an City will be entrusted to you. Don't let them down. Hearing that, Shirley laughed heartily and replied. Thank you, young master. I will definitely try my best. Ellie stood beside her. She said loudly. You two come here quickly and see. There is so much food. Below the administration building. Food trucks were coming in one after another. Shirley looked around and said, look at these trucks. The joy of harvest was overwhelming. Ellie heard that and quickly continued. Where are they going? I remember the granary wasn't over there. Finished speaking. Shirley replied. It is a new granary. It was just built this year and is being used for the first time. Hearing that, Luong said. New grain has been brought into the granary. I need to go inspect it. Do you want to come along? Hearing that, Shirley quickly replied. Okay. I want to go. Ellie happily added. I want to go too. Do we need to call someone else? That would be more lively. At the new granary in Shannan City. Everyone was gathered here. Luong smiled and said. Mr. Buff. Long time no see. Dee saw that. She looked at him and said. Mr. Buff. How have you been recently? Why are you still working? You are so old. Retire early. Hearing that, Mr. Buff quickly replied. Long time no see. I took the initiative to ask for help. Thank you for everyone's concern. I will first show everyone around. After saying that, Mr. Buff led everyone into the new granary. Shirley walked inside. She exclaimed. Mr. Buff. Is this really a granary? It's so big. Elsa looked surprised and said. I think so too. There are buildings on both sides. Where are the food in granary? Dees quickly continued. The food wasn't placed inside this building, was it? Hearing that, Old Buff quickly replied. The National Food and Supplies Reserve Center and the regular food storage are not the same. If you want to answer, you have to talk about half a year ago. Half a year ago, the young master asked Luma and I to be in charge of repairing the new granary. After that, the National Grain and Material Reserve structure was established under the highest administrative department. It was the pillar that stabilized the Han Dynasty's grain and material supply. From that moment on, the granary was officially renamed the National Grain and Material Reserve Center. Hearing that, they were surprised and exclaimed. Oh my! Hearing that made their blood boil. Pillar. So cool. Mr. Buff. So where is the last warehouse of food hidden? Ellie asked again. Mr. Buff is also very knowledgeable. You learned everything from others, right? Hearing that, Luong laughed loudly and said. You flatter me too much. This side. Mr. Buff laughed and continued. Don't be hasty. I will explain now. This place is much larger than everyone thinks. It is mainly divided into Area A and Area B. Area A is the architectural area of the administrative building in front of us. Area B is where supplies and food are stored. This is also the main point I will take everyone to visit. Next. Let's go to Area B and C. Suddenly there was an argument. The farmer said. Let me go. I'm here to sell food. Hearing that, the soldier explained. This is a work area. You can't go in. There's a purchasing point at the east gate of Area B, you wait here. We'll have a vehicle to help you transport the food there. Seeing this, Old Buff said embarrassedly. The large storage center is also troublesome. But we will arrange the way for the people. Young master, let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, Luong agreed and replied, okay. Walking forward, Elsa opened her mouth and exclaimed, this is the new granary. It's definitely not the same as before. Ellie quickly continued. Mr. Buff, can we go in and see? Hearing that, Mr. Buff quickly replied. Okay. It's time to witness the miracle. Look carefully.